What an absolute pleasure to have you back with us here. Day 2 of Royal Ascot 2020 here, Racing Post Live with the Betfair Exchange. Myself, Dave Orton, to coin a phrase, it's ramping up. Day 1 yesterday. Now you've digested it all. What a daunting card, to coin Paul Keeley in today's newspaper. You would have seen it. How are you feeling about it? Let us know on our Facebook, on our YouTube channels as well. Delighted to have you along. Delighted to have Bruce Millington back in the chair. Got your voice ready for all the commentating?
Yeah, it's quite easy today. There's only 24 runners in most of the races. Should be a piece of cake.
What can go wrong?
Exactly.
It went a little bit awry for you yesterday on the punting.
It wasn't. Yes, our first man in was dispatched with a golden duck. It was not ideal.
Okay. It was that kind of day.
Yeah.
I mean, you're staring at battle because we've got more races than ever, haven't we, of course? We've actually got more races still to go than the entire Cheltenham Festival, so we've got a long week ahead. I'm starting to get excited about it now. Have you seen Saturday's card yet? It looks absolutely incredible. One of the best Saturday cards I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? And it contains my bet of the week, Palace Pier, but there's a long way to go before we get to
Are you on already for that? Did you back him? Did you back him each way?
Yeah, I backed him the moment he waltzed up at Newcastle.
Field of 7 now, so I'm assuming he's contracted quite a bit, isn't he?
Yeah. But the Pinatubo stood his ground, obviously, so he's up against it. But I just think he's an aeroplane.
Yeah, there's a lot of love for Palace Pier out there. Oh, here we go with the Wednesday card, though. Also joining us back for day 2 in Dublin, Barry Orr, the big hitter from Betfair. Barry.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you both?
There he is, look.
Resplendent in that top hat.
Yes, indeed. In the studio, we were calling it yesterday, weren't we? The bunker, as it got to at one point. It was a good day yesterday, Barry, wasn't it? Yeah, again, you were sort of hit the crossbar a couple of times, but you were up on your trading.
Yeah, we were up on the trading. I think we won about 60 or 70 quid. Could have done with Ryan Moore winning the last race. Unfortunately, it wasn't a B, though. But a couple of strong fancies today.
OK, we'll get to them shortly because you know the punters like to know it straight in advance. We have had a first race, Bruce, of course. The Silver Hunt Cup. Was there or wasn't there a draw bias? We were bound to find out. I guess the news story coming from the 1:15, I'm sure you watched it out there. Sabusco winning for Oisin Murphy. Led home 6 on the near side.
Yep, the first 6 were on the near side, drawn 18, 17, 21, 19, 12 and 14, which kind of corroborates the evidence of day 1 that middle to high is suited. There was a clear bias. I mean, the well-fancied My Danny led them home on the far side, but he could only make 7th. So I guess that's going to have some ripples for the rest of the action on the straight course today and indeed the rest of the week. As we always say, though, Dave, you know, we've seen time and time again at Ascot, everyone says, oh, you've got to be drawn this side, you've got to be drawn that side. And then all of a sudden, the opposite side conjures one up and everyone's like, oh, hang on a sec, what's going on here? But it does feel like there is a bias.
The other story, of course, the weather. It's typical, isn't it? We have that glorious spring that we've all gone on about so much. Would have been good to firm, good to firm, good to firm, good to firm all the way. And we get to Royal Ascot and we're debating. It hasn't arrived at Ascot yet.
No, it hasn't. I think today is more likely to be like yesterday, where you're going to get these short, sharp potential bursts of rain this afternoon, rather than a prolonged period. So even if, and they obviously had one yesterday, it didn't really get into the ground to my eye. It remained, they called it good to soft. I mean, it was the softest good to, the goodest good to soft I've ever seen.
Yeah, quite.
It was probably good ground. And it remained largely that way. So even if they get a downpour today, I don't think it's going to really affect it. But I do think, looking at the weather forecast, that for the rest of the week, it's up for grabs. I mean, there's even a yellow weather warning for the area for Thursday, which suggests it could absolutely smash it down. And in that case, that's going to change matters. But as things stand, I think we're working on the basis of good with maybe a smidgen of cut.
Until it comes, the times where, OK, we'll get the time of the first for you. That will come up pretty shortly. Batash, I think, yesterday, I mean, sort of well into the card, 5th high, fastest King stand ever. So good ground, isn't it? One of the best sprinters we've seen in this country and on good ground. We've got an international flavour, of course, today as well. The Americans come over. Wes Ward is finally back. And if you think about what we've been, our restrictions with travel, quarantine, coronavirus, remarkable that we've managed to get some international flavour here.
It really is. I mean, normally, obviously, Nick Smith at Ascot spends the rest of the year trying to attract these runners over.
It's a good job.
He couldn't do that this time. I'm sure he'll still be putting his X's in. But the very fact that we've got Wesley Ward coming over for this is incredible. When you think about how at the height of the pandemic, the British Open was cancelled, the British Grand Prix, Wimbledon. But Royal Ascot, while all that was going on, even though it takes place a month before, we're saying, no, we'll stand our ground, we'll see. And everyone's like, you can't do that, surely. But here we are racing. Yeah. I know it doesn't feel quite the same because there's nobody there, but the action on the track is authentic, and we've got international raiders. Not as many as we normally do, but we've got them. This is being no doubt, okay, British racing, I've actually mentioned this in my column tomorrow, has done a phenomenal job with this resumption. The start of the flat season has been absolutely incredible. And to actually plan and execute the hosting of Royal Ascot so soon after we've kind of reached the point where it's starting to recede and the death numbers are coming down, is a great effort by the racing industry. Yeah, we'd have grabbed this, wouldn't we? We've said it before on the show, we would have grabbed this. We're excited. Let's hope you're excited as well. Bruce, your column will be available to members, around about this? Is it later on tonight, I think, yeah. Okay, yeah. So listen, members section, that reminds me to remind you of the offer that we have for you. 3 months for just a tenner for the members section in the Racing Post. Race replays, all the analysis, you get all the RPRs, spotlights, quotes, absolutely everything happens there. Promo code RACING is back. Barry, I want to come to you for a second. Just going on what Bruce has said there, a remarkable effort by everyone. What's the liquidity been like so far for the first day? Are the punters coming back? I mean, we've got no one at the track. Bit said about the place pot yesterday not being what it should have been normally. How's Betfair been affected?
Yeah, it's quite positively since the resumption of racing. The liquidity's been really, really strong on the Betfair exchange. It's there for everyone to see. It's full transparency. You can see how much has been bet on each horse individually, and you can see the market, what it's traded. So anyone that's looking at it yesterday, I think over the 7 races now, there was an extra race yesterday, obviously on last year, but I think it was up around, in terms of volumes matched, it was up about 2 million quid, 2.5 million. Versus last year. So very positive, and punters just loving the action. Very positive indeed. That's how we're going to be. Don't forget to give your comments for the panellists, Bruce and Barry, or myself even. You can do that. #RP Live on YouTube or the Facebook as well. We'd love to have you out there. A couple of people were having their own chat. There's a chat that scrolls down this thing. I'm not too sure about that. But apparently people were taking them on, like each other on head to head. It was vibrant out there, I think. It's good to know, isn't it? Absolutely, yeah. We want it to be as interactive as possible. That's the whole name of the game. Absolutely. Real-time analysis as you get it. And the beauty of it is, Bruce, we can change our minds throughout this, can't we? You know, we have to put our selections up. We do feature shows in the morning. The spotlight writers have to do it 48 hours in advance. Tom Segal, for example, he'd have already filed his copy for tomorrow, maybe in Friday, I don't know. And we have the great benefit of seeing how the track's riding. We now know, really, we want to be high numbers in the Hunt Cup, for example, and as the weather comes and all that sort of thing. So you're going to get it all here first. Shall we have a think about the first race here on RP Live, the 150? We should. Before I do that, I want to kind of sum up my feelings. I'm going to quote Kevin Pullein, the brilliant soccer boffin whose column makes a welcome return to the Racing Post today. He says, and I quote, "Repeated research has shown that there is an inverse relationship between the confidence a person has in their opinion and its accuracy. The more certain a person is that they are right, the more likely they are to be wrong. On that basis, I'm in for a great day because I've never been so unsure of my opinions after yesterday." But you never know. That's how it goes, isn't it? Yeah. Yesterday I fancied a few. I thought I was seeing the ball nice and big, and it didn't happen. But today, this is one of those ones, not particularly that my confidence has taken a knock, but that I just kind of think, blimey, these are testing. These are really, really testing races. But funny enough, this race, the 150, is one that I'm probably more confident on than others. My angle in here is the 2,000 guineas and the 2 horses that ran there. I cannot for the life of me work out why they are both such big prices. They are Juan Elcano, who finished 5th, and KENZAI Warrior, who completely blew the start. Yeah. And basically Jason Watson said, well, there's no point giving him a hard ride here. But he still ran okay, and he was staying on all right at the finish. They're up against 2 horses in First Receiver and Russian Emperor, who, for me, exemplify the effect stable names have on the market. Right. So, First Receiver, owned by the Queen, trained by Sir Michael Stout, absolutely a phenomenal runaway winner last time at Kempton. You know, really, it was a dazzling performance, but it wasn't much of a race. That's favourite. I can't see how that is favourite, bumping into horses that are like Juan Elcano, who's run brilliantly in the Guineas. Yeah. He looked, for all the world, like he was going to really, really run out of
petrol, but he stayed on into 5th. I thought it was a great performance. Russian Emperor, trained by Aidan O'Brien, not particularly brilliant in the Derringsdown, might be okay, but again, 4.3, I just don't get it. Honestly, Dave, I think this race is totally topsy-turvy. I would take on First Receiver and Russian Emperor, and I want to back Juan Elcano, and I want to back KENZAI Warrior.
Russian Emperor is the one I'm lukewarm on. With that in mind, Bruce, let's have a good look at what the market is exactly saying now. Topsy-turvy then, according to a lot of senior analysts here. And yeah, First Receiver then. Barry, I guess around about the 9 to 4 mark, and he's held his price, hasn't he, at that? As has Russian Emperor, to be fair.
Yeah, he's steady away at the top of the market. First Receiver. It's a horse I really fancy. Obviously, it's a big step up in class for him, but the way he won in Kempton when he beat the Fence Girl by 7 lengths, it was another 6.5 lengths back to the third. The Fence Girl beat the rest as easy as he beat her. And if there's ever a stable that's able to produce them and step them into this sort of class, it's Sir Michael Stoute. And I think Ryan Moore was quite sweet in his chances as well, reading his column. Obviously, he has to ride. Russian Emperor, somewhat unlucky in the Derringsdown trial. Having said that, he was beaten fair and square. The winner got first run on his stable companion, Cormermat. But I think you can pick holes in Juan Elcano. Berlin Tango is one that has a chance. Obviously, that form was well franked yesterday by Pile Driver. KENZAI Warrior missed the kick, like Bruce said. But for me, First Receiver, I'm going to back him. And Bruce, if you could do that for...
Do you want me to do the honours?
Yeah, but I'm going to select our own odds here, Bruce. Currently, It's 3.4 to back. I want to go in at around 3.5, so around the 5 to 2 mark. So if you click on the back button, and when you populate the bet slip, if you just tick up from 3.4 up to 3.5 and put in that I want to have 50 quid on that. So my liability is lose 50 quid or win 125 on First Receiver. So I'm waiting for someone to come in. I could even have been matched already because the market looks like it's going in our favour at around the 3.5 mark, which is 5 to 2. And by setting my own odds there, I think that represents good value for the Queen's horse. And Dave, I'll be able to take the top four off if this wins, because it'll be hats off to the Queen, and it won't be going on for the rest of the week. I feel like a real prat now. I've won my bet if it's hats off for the Queen here with First Receiver.
Well, let me tell you, I had loads of comments about your attire, Barry. Everyone loving the fact that you've made an effort there. Bruce, we're on?
Not yet. I'd have laid in 3.6 if you come to me. We could have cut them out.
There you go.
But I don't have a betting licence. That's the only slight problem. And after yesterday, I might not be able to pay him out.
So that's there for someone to come in. Obviously, we're looking for someone to come in and lay the other side of that bet. So we're the backers, and it's in the lay column now at 3.5, and we should get done. All you need is a bit of patience here.
And Barry, if we don't, we can always just wait until the race starts and then just chase the latest price. If it's 3.45, it's not going to make the world of difference. But I'm not very patient at this. If I don't get done straight away, I get worried that the market's going to go against me. But I think you're going to teach me an object lesson in patience here, aren't you? Sit and wait.
Well, I think it's good to be a price creator sometimes as well, Bruce. I think all you need is patience, and it's quite a mature market, and it's quite good in terms of liquidity. So you're going to have fluctuations, not massive, but you're going to have like 3.4, 3.45, 3.5. I think we're done now.
We are done.
Okay, let's get a social media comment coming in. Love these when they come in. Well, we've got Sam Hodgson's. Where's DJ? Love that man. Well, funny you should say that. What a piece of timing this. She says, should we see what Mr. David Jennings thinks of the 150?
I can't believe the betting here. I'm very, very surprised that First Receiver is favourite. And I'm surprised that Russian Emperor is second favourite, because I think Juan Elcano should be favourite. Look, he's not the sexiest type in the world. He's been beaten in the Guineas, and he was a reasonably good 2-year-old. But to me, he's the highest rated horse in the race. He's got the best form in the race. He comes into the race on the back of a cracking run in that Guineas when he was 5th. He looks to be crying out for a mile 2, and he ticks all the boxes for me. I think he's the one you need to be on here, Juan Elcano.
Cool, we took a risk there, didn't we? Going to David Jennings for a race analysis with only 5 minutes before the off. We got away with that.
Keeley yesterday was 15 seconds. I said to the boys earlier, that's going to be our breather through the day. You're quite right. He's kind of on your side, though, isn't he, there? And again, looking at the market. I'll just chip in a little bit with First Receiver. The time was really good at Kempton. I did that analysis for the paper. I mentioned it on our feature show this morning. And Michael Stoute's record in this, he won it last year, you'll remember, with Sangarius as well. This horse reminds me a little bit of his 2014 winner, Cannock Chase, who went on to be a really, really good horse. And he's had 9 runners, 2 winners and 2 places as well. Aidan O'Brien, in contrast, this used to be a graveyard for O'Brien runners. Hunting Horn was his winner I think of his last 10 runners, just the 1 win and 2 places for Huntington in 2018. And I don't know, this feels like a bit of an afterthought. I don't know. I wasn't, overly enamoured by Russian Emperor at all, I don't think, in the Derrinstown. I know that Cormorant, the winner there, stole it, and he probably didn't get the best of rides, but it's one to take on for me.
What do you think, Barry? Because, Russian Emperor, you can lay that for 1.63. Now, I know that you've got 3 fairly big outsiders in this, so you could argue that it's only 3 from 5. But, we've seen outsiders hit the frame this week, no problem. So can I talk you into a place lay, or are you going to stick rigidly to your pre-meeting plans?
Yeah, no, I very much stick to my plans, and I'm happy enough to do that. I don't think there's any value in place laying Russian Emperor. I think he'll definitely be in the first 3 here, and it's the dead 8 as well for place backers. And that wouldn't appeal to me at all. If I was laying anything in the place, it'd be Juan Elcano. I thought he got it soft enough in the Guineas in that he had that rail, and a lot of horses made all in Newmarket across that weekend. He was up with the pace. He'd everything in his favour. And I just don't see him coming forward from that again. If anything, I think he might digress.
Have a quick word on the ground, guys. The first race, it was, just looking to come through from the studio here on my screen, it was slow by 0.94 seconds. So, again, we're looking at pretty good ground, aren't we?
The other big thing to remember, obviously, with that race is that Tom Siegel tipped it. So he had an 18-1 winner on Tuesday with Pile Driver, 12-1 winner there. And one thing I've known from working with Tom down the years is that when he hits form at these big meetings, it all kind of clicks into place. He's sniffing along the right form lines, and Tom's really going to be worth following. And don't forget, again, that incredible £10 for 3-month deal. You get all Tom's tips the night before free, all Paul Keeley.
I'd back up that opinion of Tom as well. Yeah, like any profile tipster like Tom, you're going to go through runs where you're just hitting the crossbar and it's not going to go anywhere. But everyone I know, whenever his name comes up to anyone you speak to, those incredible runs that he's been on, he doesn't owe anyone a pint, let's put it that way.
Talking of runs, there's been a run on first receiver, Barry. Everyone's watching this, followed you in, and he's now 3.2 to back.
Whoa.
Yeah, we did well to get matched at 3.5, which is 5-2. He's 9-4 now if you want to back him. And he's only going one way as well. There's plenty of money that seems to be knocking around for him because Russian Emperor is a little bit weak. I think that's fair to say, Bruce. He's out to 7-2. Juan Elcano seems to be well supported into 9-2, and it's 5-1 Berlin Tango. But yeah, our first receiver strong at the head of the market.
We should discuss Berlin Tango as well, obviously, because that form from Kenton ties in with Pile Driver, doesn't it? And also with the third Bright Melody in the next race. So if you see Berlin Tango run well here, and you fancy Bright Melody, don't hesitate to jump in and take a price on Bright Melody, because that will be, as sure as night follows day, there will be a gamble on that one.
I think that Berlin Tango's taken the Baldings by surprise a little bit. He got beaten by Pile Driver Census on his Salisbury debut last year. I'm just remembering looking up at his profile. And I think that surprised him a little bit, that 7-1. But it's turning out like what could be a key race for the week, isn't it? Absolutely. And again, 9-2, you know he's going to stay. He's the distance winner among them. To back Bruce up on both Juan Elcano and KENZAI, if you're looking at the pedigrees, the damn side of it, this trip should be absolutely no problem whatsoever. So don't worry about that.
The only thing you'd worry about with KENZAI is the drift. 23 now. He's taken an absolutely horrific walk.
Again, though, is that the Roger Teal thing? I don't know.
Possibly, yeah. It could be. I mean, again, I've said it on Racing Post Live before. I don't really fear a drift. I mean, the market's been, with 72-hour decks now, this market's so mature. I mean, you can't tell me that all of a sudden someone's uncovered something on form that, that means he can't win.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not watching. I can't see whether he's gone down with the old fifth leg or he's foaming up or anything like that. But, I can't see anything causing too much of a kerfuffle down at the start. So I'm fairly relaxed about that.
I suppose that the £4 penalty for him and Berlin Tango doesn't help their causes.
No, that's absolutely true. There's no question about it. But, I mean, that's very much factored into the price. I just think, if you looked at the 2,000 guineas, KENZAI went off shorter than Juan. He's got a really legitimate excuse for how he ran. And he actually, like I say, it's hard to tell when they blow the start and they're not really going for it. But it was still a pretty decent run.
It was almost a free hit, wasn't it? Just
exactly.
Get a blowout. And they are going into the stalls for our first race here on Racing Post Live with the Betfair Exchange, the 150. Bruce Millington will be calling the races today. Coming to myself and Barry for a bit. We'll be telling you exactly how the market is seeing this. This is what we have here on Racing Post Live. Betfair, it is the market. You'll get it all as it happens. Bruce, one or two more to go in.
Yeah, and first receiver just ticked out very slightly to 3.3. Juan Elcano and Russian Emperor now sort of vying for second favouritism. Berlin Tango's been really solid at 5.6. And Mascat is actually now fifth favourite because it's overtaken KENZAI. But the gates go up and away we go. New World Tapestry is one of the last ones to show. Early doors, we've got Juan Elcano as he did in the Guineas bowling along, King Carney and that looks like Berlin Tango. Being kept out wide, who's that out on the wide outside? That is King Carney, sorry, so the one on the inside is actually Mascat with very, very similar colours. We've got first receiver and KENZAI Warrior in 5th and 6th, followed by Russian Emperor and stablemate New World Tapestry as they round the bend. And now we have got, who's that in front? Mascat, isn't it? What's happening in the market, chaps?
Well, I would be surprised, Barry, if first receiver hadn't gone up a little bit in the market because he's pulling quite hard. This is a complete change of tactics now. They rode him over a mile at Kempton on the all-weather.
Yeah, he's been up with it in those, especially in Kempton, he was up with the pace and he made it. But I think they've steadied it up markedly in front. Is it King Carney that's
King Carney in front? Yeah,
I think Juan King Carney in front of Juan Elcano, who's going to go up and challenge him for second spot there, and then back in third Mascat. But at the moment, 7-2 first receiver, 5-2 Juan Elcano.
He's on the bridle now, first receiver.
Yeah, but still, they've given him a fair old start, you know, because we're rounding into the state now. You know, you can't come from too far back there. Berlin Tango's really handy as Juan Elcano comes to take it up now.
Here we go.
And he's being stalked by Berlin Tango. Coming up on the inside, trying to make an effort is KENZAI Warrior. Still going really well, first receiver. The two O'Brien horses are struggling out the back. Juan Elcano about to be tackled by Berlin Tango. Here comes first receiver on the outside, but it's Berlin Tango who looks like he's set sail for home, but he's being eyeballed now by first receiver.
Come on, first
receiver good enough to get
coming
up on the outside. Who's Russian Emperor? Berlin Tango's got
Come on, Frankie,
Berlin Tango being pressed now by first receiver. Here comes the other one.
Come on, Frankenstein!
Wins the races. Goodness me. First receiver second. Berlin Tango, all change. And what a brilliantly timed run by the poker face of Ryan Moore to nick it on the line on the 130 shot. Russian Emperor. Blimey, Barry, that must have been a topsy-turvy old affair.
Whew. Oh, my word. There was 11 quid matched at 1,000 on the winner.
Wow.
Is that right?
Does that get done?
Wow.
Huh?
I mean, he was off the bridle turning in this horse, and if we're watching it now back, just coming up to the furlong pole, Frankie looked pretty confident to me. He's definitely been softened up by Berlin Tango slightly, hasn't he? He didn't do really a tap in front when he got there first receiver, and the grinder with Ryan Moore throwing absolutely everything in the saddle. I mean, he's just outstayed them, really. He never looked like he was going to win anywhere bar the line.
When's he 1,000?
No, excuse me. 44 Russian Emperor was backed at at a high of 44 Russian Emperor. Okay. That's my mistake there, lads. First receiver was matched at a low.
I thought I had the money there, guys.
It looked like he was home, a low of even money.
A low of even money. Never got odds on, first receiver.
Never went odds on. No, I could see it unfolding on the outside. Ryan Moore, he was beginning to wind up with the challenge of Russian Emperor, and the winning post just wasn't coming in time for Frankie. It took him all his time to get past Berlin Tango. But when he did, unfortunately, obviously Russian Emperor was there on the outside to do.
How short did Berlin Tango get, please, Barry?
Berlin Tango now, Bruce, hit a low, would you believe, of, what would you think?
6-4?
Who's on? 1.50 for 256 quid.
I'm stunned that first receiver never went odds on. I really am. Yeah. I suppose it's the combination of the amount of time it's taken him to wear down Berlin Tango, and then the fact that just at the moment he does that, all of a sudden Russian Emperor comes flying on the outside. Yeah,
low at 204. Russian Emperor, a high of 44.
The principles came clear, guys, in a pretty tight finish. I mean, Berlin Tango, he was the one you wanted to be on 2 furlongs out. Then it looked like Frankie was confident of getting on top. And right down the middle, I wonder if we see that as the day goes on the round course. The wide draws just swinging, especially if this rain does arrive. He's going to have all sorts of ripples now, isn't it, with Japan in mind, in the Prince of Wales as well.
Yeah, none of them have wanted to go near the inside there, have they?
KENZAI is the only one who did. Juan Elcano, I think, probably just didn't quite get home. Certainly not as well as the first
He
three.
stayed on okay. You know, he's going to be a popular horse. He's going to be just off top grade all year, and he's going to get a big fan club. Just looking at first receivers, and I've come across Berlin Tango right on the line, looking at the head-on. Yeah. I don't think it'll be anything that the stewards will deem worth swapping the positions around, but he really did come across him there.
Yeah, just you look at the different styles of the jockeys there, and Frankie, we know he's softer in the saddle than Ryan. Ryan, I mean, that was strength, I think, in the finish there that you've seen there. And
did it yesterday, didn't we? Terabellum, we saw him on the
Queen Anne.
God. In the Queen Anne yesterday, we saw
Circus Maximus,
Circus Maximus, Ryan Moore just driving by Frankie on Terabellum.
Yes, this is 2-1 to Ryan, I suppose, isn't it? So look, as the week goes on, we'll be getting top jockeys. They'll all be going for that. I think Frankie thought he had that there. I wouldn't say that the horse hasn't got mile 2 at all, but he just a little bit keen early for me, and I don't know. I think he's a horse that's got a stride and he wants to go. As for the form, with 3 coming clear, Berlin Tango gives you a benchmark, doesn't he? The pile driver form, pile driver's going to run in the Derby. It's not a bad race, I don't think, with them coming clear of a horse that ran in the Guineas. I'd be fairly positive on that.
Still a very, very muddled picture with regard to the Derby, though, isn't it? Really, really.
He's 12 from 40 for the Derby.
He's what?
That winner. He's 12 to 1 from 40 to 1 on the sports book for the Derby.
I think you can say he should have won the Derrinstown now. Certainly looking at that, it was a Mickey Mouse Maceberry, wasn't it? And Cormorant nicked it from the front with your man on board. And I don't know. So listen, Aidan O'Brien.
Does that make, is that Aidan's shortest runner?
No. The horse that finished second in the Irish Guineas is the shortest runner. It's the shortest priced runner for him, Vatican City.
Oh, Vatican, yeah.
And Barry is very keen on that.
I want to ask you about this because, Vatican City's got a pedigree to die for, but isn't it more of a mile pedigree? The half-brother to Glen Eagles,
yes.
And Marvellous and all those others. But, to me, I'm surprised how little other people made of how unlucky Vatican City was. I know Siskin was fantastic and, to quote Mick Fitzgerald, take nothing away from the winner. But I thought that was a brilliant run by Vatican City. I really did.
It was a really, really messy race. We'll get a handle on it as well tomorrow. The Jersey Stakes, Monarch of Egypt, who didn't get much run in that as well. He's a big player in that. So Siskin looks like a bit of a star, doesn't he? Just want to give a nod to the boys at myracing.com. That was their nap, actually, Russian Emperor, 150, and it's heading their Akka. So let's give them a nod. They had a good day yesterday as well. Circus Maximum was the nap. 2 naps in a row, boys. Happy days. Japan to come for them. And Fujiwara Prince in the last. Also, you like, Bruce?
It is, yeah. Another one that not probably you're not beating the book if you back Fujiwara Prince, but it might be that you're just siding with a very progressive animal who lightly raced at 6 but still got plenty in the tank. There's a long way to go between now and then, of course, but we'll see whether that one is the icing on the cake or the get-out stakes.
It's a fair old stretch this shift, but I've got nothing but faith in you. Your voice will hold out. You'll be absolutely fine. I know it.
That was the easiest race to commentate on so far, and it was still pretty difficult.
A pipe opener. Okay. A pipe opener, absolutely. Barry, so what we were trying to get people to name the charity for us yesterday was Racing Welfare. You remember over the Guineas weekend where we nabbed as much as 700 quid, but absolutely fantastic. If you are listening out there on social media, Barry's put suggestions for what the horse charity should be. So unless you come up with one, we'll come up with here in the studio. But do let us know, because listen, we've got a long way to go, and with Barry on our side, we're probably going to get some profit. Barry, one question that I've been asked, a personal question today, have you got a big lay today? One that you're a juicy one. It was Mogul yesterday, wasn't it, which paid off handsomely for you. Is there one today that you really want to...
It was Japan today at around the even money mark or 2.10, around 11 to 10. But the last time I looked, he was nearly out to 13 to 8, which I thought was way too big, and I wouldn't be looking to take him on at that price.
That's got to have gone
6 to 4
now.
hard now.
He's back into 2.5 now. Bang on 6 to 4.
He's bang on 6 to 4. So, if he comes in, at the time, I think I'm going to look to maybe lay him. But I'll be selecting again. I'll be selecting my own odds, and I'll be putting into lay him about 2.1, 2.2 around that mark. I think 6 to 4 is too big, but I'll be a layer around the 11 to 10 mark or a little bit bigger.
Barry, I guess one of the factors that's going to influence Japan's price is how much rain Adib gets, isn't it? Because if he starts chucking it down, then he's going to start shortening, and consequently the other one's going to drift.
He's already a false price, Bruce. Like, he had been as high as 12-1. He's into 11-2 now, and it's all on this rain materialising in the well, not all of it materialising in the afternoon. We have had some rain. I think it's good to soften places on the round course, but it didn't look too bad there. I'm sure Dave will tell us the times off the back of the Hampton Court, but I think Adayev's a ridiculous price now at 11-2 in against the likes of Japan.
Also a nod for Russian Emperor. I'm being told to thank Lee Gilbert. We did see your social comment. You were all over Russian Emperor. Congratulations. Happy days. Don't forget to get your comments in. We'll do our best to give them a shout. The boys in the gallery are pretty busy, but they see them there. We'll do our best to respond to them. We love the shout-outs. Yeah, I'll have a look for that time, Barry, on the round course. It's invariably slower, isn't it, on the round course? We know that. A little bit of good to soft there. But again, it didn't look that bad, did it, at all?
No. And like I say, you know, the race is off in an hour. That even if it started raining now and absolutely smashed it down non-stop.
His Betfair graph at one point, Bruce, this morning when I was watching it, suggested that Willie might even pull him out. But he has come back in now. It's surely too late now, isn't it? I think. But they are, and even if the rain comes, like you say, how much is it going to get?
Did you get to call him Willie?
Did I call him Willie? Did I?
You did. Anyone who rings. I mean, every young Racing Post reporter will tell you if you ever call him Willie, you get admonished very, very
I probably
quickly.
was searching for the M there, but
and you can't.
Anyway.
It's like calling. It's like if you ring Rafe Beckett up and say hello, Ralph. You get the only response you'll get is Rafe.
Shall we talk about Rafe Beckett quickly?
Yeah.
You texted me in the week, didn't you? And since it's come out on a postcard, because loads of my mates have gone, oh, Bruce, what happened? Tell us a little bit, because when we did the Guineas weekend, he couldn't buy a winner.
No, and then suddenly he found form with that thing, Bubbles Boy at Haydock.
They just could not stop winning.
And then he kept on going well, so I thought, right, I'm going to start getting out the old Rafe Beckett multiples again. So it was last Tuesday, and he had 5 runners. 1 fairly big price and 4 shortish ones, but all decent price, all odds against. So the other 4 have won. The second leg was a horse called Vape, who I can't even remember where it was running. But anyway, it kicked on and looked like it was going to absolutely destroy them. Got done at 1.07 and got nutted on the line. Now, that was the second of the 5. So the others have all won, and it turns out that had he held on, and bear in mind he was 1.07 or 14s on today, so I would have won 65 grand. So that was that's probably the biggest I've hit the bar ever. But I've vowed, and we talked about it on Racing Post Live over Guineas weekend, that I'm not going to let betting do. There would have been a time when you couldn't have spoke to me for 2 days after that. I'd have been absolutely horrified. But I thought, no, it's only betting.
I said, go and walk the dog, didn't I? Or something like that. I remember the horse won at Wolverhampton. It hosed up, didn't it? I then cottoned on to what was going on. And so Bruce is paid up number 1 member of Rafe Beckett's stable. And Rafe Trefoil yesterday, again, they've probably got a couple on the week that he's fancying.
It wasn't great yesterday. Moon King didn't do anything.
Yeah, it was a bit disappointing, Moon King, wasn't he, in the last? Yeah, so, but look, lots of stories are developing. Jim Crowley having the hat-trick yesterday, Hampden Helmet Tomb, what a day they had. Oisin Murphy off the mark. Go back into your members section, have a little look at the replay of the first if you didn't see it. What a ride that was in the Silver Hunt Cup. Absolutely superb. So Oisin off the mark now. Ryan has got 2 in the bag. Frankie's had a winner. It's Racing Post and it's Royal Ascot as we know it.
Just without the crowds. I mean, that's the weird thing, isn't it? I watched you guys yesterday. I watched ITV. I watched Sky Sports Racing. I even went to the betting shop. I thought, I'm going to go to the betting shop to watch the Mogul race. Well, it was all right actually. There was perspex all over the place. Everywhere was fairly clearly divided.
It's not uncommon for a betting shop, though, is it? That to have the screens.
They weren't there before.
Oh, okay.
But basically, all those. Does people still play those machines? Anyway, there were still 4 of them, and they each had a kind of perspex divider. And then in the middle, where there's normally a nice bit of comfy seating, they've taken that away and put a kind of tilted betting shop display case there. It takes the comfort zone out, but they don't want people loitering. They want them to go in and put their bets on and
so
come
the buzz of the betting shop is something.
I watched the Mogul race in there, and there were 5 people apart from me all actually engaged with the race, which isn't bad. So, they were engaged up until about the 2 furlong pole when they started swearing at Ryan Moore and sidled off outside for a cigarette. But
half of the course,
But anyway, the point I was getting to is that if you watched ITV, normally Royal Ascot is just so vibrant, isn't it? It's just colour and all life is there and everyone's having the most fantastic time. And it was weird because however much you tried to dress it up, the atmosphere was Southall in January, wasn't it? And
Alistair Down said something great.
it was brilliant, wasn't it?
Was
the thing
comment?
about not since Dick Turpin applied his
with the
so many
masks.
masked horsemen tried to get the loot. It was just a brilliant line. Only
that's why we said about
Alistair,
the
Alistair can do that stuff. It's just brilliant.
He also said by bizarre, out of unprecedented, which is typical
exactly.
Alistair line. Yeah, absolutely. Alistair Down, great to have him back during the week. Okay, so the time of the first, I can tell you, was that we covered here was slow point 9.94. On the round course, it is slower, and it looks like pretty much they've got it right. 2 min 5.86, so slow point 1.86. Look, there's a tiny bit of juice in there, which just suits absolutely everyone, doesn't it? We'll keep an eye on the weather watch. It looks like it's about to come down.
Yeah, I do not fear, but I do think it's really important for punters if they're looking to bet, and they are the kind of punter who really places a lot of emphasis on ground. They do need to keep an eye out for things. That's an interesting debate. Barry, where are you on the ground? Because I was speaking to Keith Melrose, my colleague, yesterday, and he says he's not much of a ground punter. So I said, well, elaborate on that. And basically, I think what he's really saying is that you can get it into your head that a horse has to have a particular ground type based on not much evidence. And sometimes I think where trainers get themselves in a little bit of a hole is that if they've got a horse early on in its career that performs badly, they go into the little book of excuses, and very high up there is blame the ground. So if all of a sudden they say, well, he obviously doesn't like cut, he can't really campaign that horse on cut again, can he? Because then the owner's going to say, well, what are you doing? So
I suggest that's why they're keeping it away from it in the profile.
I just think, what do you think, Barry? Sometimes do you think people get a little bit too hung up on ground? I mean, obviously we know there are certain horses that absolutely have to have a particular type, but I just think sometimes everyone gets a bit hung up on it.
Now, for me, it's one of the most important factors when I'm having a bet, to be perfectly honest with you, Bruce. Yeah, and especially with established horses. And, after a horse has ran 3 or 4 times, obviously with unexposed 2-year-olds or even unexposed 3-year-olds, it's hard to tell. But after they've ran a while, ran 3 or 4 times, you're able to maybe attribute what ground they perform best on. It's not to say a horse doesn't like particular ground. It's just they're not performing to their optimum ability on a particular surface. So it's something that's very important to me. And like Dave said there a second ago, like there's a little bit of give in this ground. It's probably perfect ground. So it shouldn't be an excuse for anybody today unless you enjoy extremes of going, either very, very firm or very, very soft. And that's something as well that you'd have to take into account. But I think the ground today is no excuses for anybody, but it is a very important thing when assessing a horse's chances, for me personally.
I guess a Dave is the absolute perfect model on that, isn't it? A horse that will handle this ground okay, but when it's hot deep, he just is so good on it when others aren't.
Yeah, Haggis was funny in the paper today. He said his favourite ground is when there's an inspection and it just about passes.
Like the Somme, yeah, absolutely. So listen, we wish him well. He's a fantastic horse. Remember, we won a couple of Grade 1s down in Australia right in the middle of lockdown. Really lifted our spirits, didn't he? We've got a social comment, I do believe. Let's have a look at the screen. Jordan Nelson, welcome along, Jordan. Well done, guys. Good to keep the show going at times like this, absolutely. Thanks for that. Thank you, boys, for keeping us entertained. There we go. Thoughts on the next race? Shall we move on, chaps? To what looks like an extremely difficult King George V Mile 4 handicap. And this is always a difficult race, isn't it? But in particular, with the preps that they've had, the little form we've got to go on, it is a bit of a take a chance on one. And like, if you have to put them up like we have, you've had to narrow it down to one. Should we just have a little reminder?
Yeah. Blimey, I've forgotten.
Bright Melody?
I've gone for Bright Melody, that's right. Yeah, and I'm not disappointed with that because, like I say, I was relying on that Kempton Classic Trial form to be upheld, and really Berlin Tango, who won that Classic Trial, ran really well in third there. He was pretty close to the front too.
He didn't let it too much down, but sure he didn't, considering he was giving away £4 to the first and second. So
I reckon this will go our favourite, boys. I really, really do. Can we have a look at the market now? Let's have a little look as it appears magically on screen. So what have we got? Bright Melody 6.4. So okay, Kipps is still holding sway at the moment. I'd punt out that this might just go off outright favourite, I think. First time cheek pieces. He was a little bit green, wasn't he, at Kempton? I wouldn't let that put me off too much. Turf should be fine. He's one of these great pedigrees that they have. Barry, I think now is the time. You've seen Bright Melody. I like Bodyline as well. Where are you going?
I really like one here, Arthurian Fable for Brian Mean and Martin Dwyer. And I'm going to back him in the place market. Now, obviously, the standard place terms here are 4, but on Betfair, you can choose to go 3 places, 4 places, or even 5 places. But we're going to go into the standard place market, Bruce, and 4 places, Arthurian Fable. He's currently around 305. I think that's a pretty fair price. So I'm happy enough to go in and have 50 quid on Arthurian Fable at 305.
Oh, come on, Barry. Come on, let's be bold. Let's go to 3.1, shall we? It's there anyway. There we go.
Yeah,
How much are we having?
Yeah,
50?
take him, it's there.
A
yeah,
bullseye?
50 quid in him, yeah. He won the fabulously named Betfair Weighed In podcast handicap, or he finished second, a short head second over a month in Newmarket. He's in this race off 81. He went up £5 for that Newmarket race because this was an early closer. He's £5 well in, so he gets the race off 81 here. And I just thought that was a really, really smart, a smart run behind Global Storm.
Barry,
in Newmarket. He's only been short head with 3 lengths back to the third that day. And
something funny's happened here. I've had some matched at 3.07. So pretty much half, and then the rest is unmatched at 3.05. Just explain to someone who maybe is new to the exchange and they see 307 and they're like, well, hang on, what the hell's that?
Well, it's best price execution. So what price? We tried to back it at 2.
No, we tried to back it at 3. I think I might have got greedy and tried to get on at... No, 3.05 I got.
305.
But it's been done at 307.
Yeah, so part of it would have been matched at 307, but because it's best price execution, so on Betfair, if you asked to back that horse at 305 and just at that stage someone was looking to lay it at 307, you'll get matched at the 307. So
but
what
there
we've
isn't.
done here,
is there such a thing as 307?
What we've done here is we have it's 305. It's average. So some of it's been probably matched at 10 and some of it's been matched at 3.1 and some of it's been matched at 305.
Okay.
So there's an average then which is around the 306 mark. We've been because it's not a price you can select 306, but because it's some of it's been done at 3.1 and some of it's been done at 305, it works out the average for you there.
So we'll call it as with that supermarket advert, every little helps, yeah.
Of course.
It certainly does during Royal Ascot week, absolutely. And look, if you're a novice or you're a beginner even, or you're an absolute seasoned Betfarian, you're going to learn something new there, which I just absolutely have. OK, I'll give you a couple of stats about this race coming up, having mugged up a little bit in between shows this morning. 7 of the last 10 have had a win next to their name. And as I was mentioning to earlier on the show, I looked again at Win O'Clock, guys, Roger Charlton's horse in here, John 13 and Holly Doyle. And again, I looked at his performance at ADOT last time. I'm not absolutely certain about the extra 2 furlongs, which I should say at this point, Arthurian Fable on breeding, a Barry selection, is absolutely certain to love. Looking at that, but if he does get home, he looks an absolute typical winner of this race. And Roger Charlton has had 1 winner in the race in the last 10 years. It was Atty Purse, who of course gave Kieran Schumacher his first ever Royal Ascot winner for Godolphin a few years back. That would be the one if I was not jumping ship, because I do like Bodyline a lot. But I just think that Win O'Clock, if I'm now covering myself, he's the one I want to get on board. Bruce, anything else?
Can you just look up the last 10 winners, which is always, I think, a brilliant facility on Racing Post. If you go to the pro card and then down to the bottom you'll see the last 10 winners. Roughly what kind of SP are we looking at here?
Good point. I looked at this for the Hampton Stakes, which is just, I'm using something called Raceform Interactive here, which I could not do without. However, there's actually no outright favourite that's won this. In the last, any
massive shocks?
There's been 2 joints. Well, the biggest SP was last year when South Pacific, believe it or not, for Aidan O'Brien in a handicap one at 22-1. The average SP, I'd say, is probably around about 10s.
Okay,
it is about 10-1. What was that making you?
Well, no, because I always this is quite an unusual race, isn't it? It's a 3-year-old early season 1.5 mile handicap. So by their very nature, there are a lot of them. Well, they're all unexposed.
Fascinating, aren't they?
Really fascinating. And I just feel like, you can have handicaps, top-end handicaps, where they've all run against each other. You know exactly who they all are. You know exactly what you're dealing with. But with this, you really don't, do you? Now, you might look back in October and say, well, blimey, how on earth did that get in off whatever it did, And that makes this a really, really difficult horse race.
It
It just
it's a good
always
point.
is.
This reminds me, I think, this race. Now, I think back to some of the horses that I've backed in it over the years. I've left a few on the table that definitely should have won. I remember Cross Counter got beaten in this a couple of years ago. How did that get beaten? When running a Melbourne Cup, unbelievable.
Brown Panther won it.
Brown
didn't
Panther won it. Dandino won it as well. Elite Army as well. Yeah, you really want a horse that's verging on, well, certainly pattern races, don't you?
Yeah, you do. I mean, I don't know. I just with Kipps, you've got to respect what he's done. He looks. You can see why he heads the market, but does he deserve? Would you want to be backing him at under 5-1? I don't know. What do you think of Kipps, Barry?
Yeah, I don't think Hughie Morrison is setting the world alight since racing resumption, is he? I'm just trying to see what his stats are at the moment.
Barry. Good question.
Just off the top of my head, I don't think he's had many.
2 from 25 since resumption. Actually, his
25.
last runner was a winner. So there you go. But that would have been yesterday probably. It's so difficult to keep tabs on things. The interesting thing about Kipps for me is he's £5 ahead of the handicapper. I'm assuming that Hughie ran him to try and get him into this race. Whereas you've got Roger Charlton, who's got a horse under a penalty, who's got enough 79. Yeah. That's really low, isn't it?
Yeah,
so,
I mean, you can't, if your rating starts with a 7, you can forget Royal Ascot.
Usually you can. And of course, Winner Clock is the horse we're talking about, who's £5 ahead of the handicapper. So look, there are already some very well handicapped horses in this. We know this because they're going to race off future Iron Miles. Kipps, Barry, just give us a line on that. Why weren't you going that way? You just thought he was maybe showing his hand a little bit or last time, or the run was coming a bit soon, or
just the race that he finished second in Haydock walk on by. I just didn't think much of it, to tell you the truth. The winner wasn't that well fancied that day. There was no money for it in the market, and he had every chance. I suppose he's just touched off, like you say. He's £5 well in, as my own selection is Arthurian Fable. But I just thought he was one worth taking on. Hughie Morrison, an 8% strike rate since racing resumed. And I'd want to see that in mid to high double figures.
Well, certainly interesting thoughts. Let's get the thoughts from our man David Jennings in Ireland.
Yeah, look, it might be boring. He might be favoured, but I think Kipps is one of the best handicapped horses running at Royal Ascot this week. Hughie Morrison tends to do well in this race, and this Kipps, I love the run at Haydock. How he got beaten, I have no idea. He travelled like the best horse in the race. He battled. He stuck his neck out. He was on front probably a stride before the line and a stride after the line. It was just right on the line that Walk On By had him beaten. He tried at 1.11 in running that day. I think he's crying out for a step up and trip, because the way he travelled, he just didn't have that instant acceleration 2 furlongs out over 1.2 miles at Haydock. I think he just needed this extra yardage. I think he's going to see him come into his own. And Kipps, off a mark of 83, if he can't be really, really competitive off that mark, I'd be bitterly disappointed.
Cheers, Dave. Weighing in with the Fav then. OK, so we've got a range of opinions going on. Convict is one we should mention, Bruce, because the top 2 boys, Keeley and Segal, have both gone for Convict.
Yeah, they have. I don't know what to say, really. I mean, it's decent enough form last year. Is it enough to make me think that, the horse is definitely going to come on for the trip and be worth backing at? He's currently 11.5. Not particularly. I'm much keener on form since the resumption than form 8 months ago. And I mean, there's a good example of that in the Irish 1,000 Guineas, wasn't there? The favourite got ridiculously short. I mean, she was clear on ratings, but
Albina.
You're dealing with 8-month-old form, and horses, particularly from 2 to 3, can change so much.
Tubo, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, Tom and Keels are zillion pounds better judges than me. So if they both go for one, I'm always very keen. It feels more like a kind of hunch feel on their behalf, but they've both gone for it, so they've both seen something. I don't know. I think Bright Melody's form is much more solid and relevant and recent and fresh. And so, Convict can certainly come and do it, but I wouldn't be rushing.
He definitely wanted that to come, I think.
Yeah.
Like a Dave for William Haggis.
And it hasn't. It just hasn't.
Exactly. So that I must admit, that would put me off him slightly. And Tom's argument was that he was a lot better 2-year-old than they probably thought he would be, looking at he's probably is a group horse down later in the line. These William Haggis, in the colours of his dad, they always improve for a bit of age and a bit of a trip and a bit of cut as well. So look, we're going through them. Let us know what your thoughts are out there. Do let us know whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. The numbers were good for the first day. We want to get them right up. We're trying to mention as many as we can. There's so many in here, aren't they? I mean, the Gosling camp have got 2 Nathaniel in here. I mean, could we kick that one out of the frame?
He's the trends horse, isn't he?
He is.
Kevin Morley. And again, he does a super job with those trends. I mean, Craig Thake did them since the Racing Post began. And when Craig came to me when I was editor and he said, I haven't got time to do the trends anymore, I thought, oh, no.
I remember you put it out there, didn't you?
I was like, oh, my goodness me, this is a problem because I'm a massive fan of that column. I think it's so important. And so, I put an email out, didn't I? I said, look, Craig's knocking it on the head. Does anyone fancy it? And Kevin Morley, who's a real lovely fella, but very quiet, he said, well, I'll give it a go. So we had a quick chat and I was really impressed with his knowledge. And I think he's done a smashing job with it ever since. Yeah,
I'm lucky enough to get that email every Tuesday when it comes out, because it's for our weeklies as well, doesn't it? And it is essential for me. I definitely then go straight to the Saturday cards, start ticking them off, because Kevin does all the hard work for you, and that's, of course, in your members section. So, to Nathaniel, again, it's just like, I just go back to that third one he was beating. He just looks a little bit slow to me. And John Gosden in the paper said today that the owner, George Strawbridge, loves to have a runner at Ascot. I don't know about you boys, that always puts me off a little bit,
Well, yeah, but it's not a day out here, is it? Because he can't come, so maybe it's slightly different this time. There'll be a few people drawn for the fact that Ryan Moore is on a horse that can be backed at 30 on Betfair, which is subjectivist for Braveheart. And I mean, the one thing about Mark Johnson horses is that you never let a big price put you off there, do you? That is an absolute golden rule.
He has got some very interesting form, that horse, and probably what Ryan's agent was looking at. And when they do team up, quite right. Mohican Heights, he was just off last August, and he had a little bit of form with Pile Driver as well, been well advertised. And the ground was against him, I think, when he went to the Zetland Stakes as well. So he's dropping down from a Group 3 as well. A wide draw, Barry, interestingly, is interesting this race. Yours, let's remind everyone, Arthurian Fable is in 16. So he's got 2 on his outside, what a mind, a Bodyline. I think Kevin Morley, referencing Kev again, if you look back, so there you go. Only 2 of the last 10 have been in single figures. You can find all sorts of scrimmaging. It's a rough race usually when they're coming round that corner. Those that are slingshotting right down the middle, don't let a wide draw put you off at all.
It's funny that, isn't it? Because, I mean, basically, this is a 1.5 mile, U-shaped race course. Longchamp's the same. Wide draw at Longchamp, you can forget.
Yeah.
But here, it's an advantage. Go figure.
Very odd, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's rough. And like we saw in the previous race in the Hampton Courts, the 150, Ryan came widest of all with his run. Tried to do that on Mogul yesterday, of course, as well. So it's certainly something the boys at Ballydoyle would have been talking about. Should we have a reminder of the market, chaps?
I was going to say, your prediction may come true here, Dave.
Oh, right, OK. Bright Melody could be outright fav, could he? Can we get it up on screen, boys? In the gallery, the market. Let's have a little reminder. They're duelling out, these two, aren't they? Kips and Bright Melody.
They surely are, yeah. It's 5-1 each of 2 of them. Wine O'Clock now is around a 13-2 chance, 7.4. A little over 10-1 Convict, who's 10.5. But yeah, it's a righto tussle at the top of the market. And Kips just holding on, just clinging on to favouritism at the moment.
OK, yeah. I mean, Win O'Clock, it does look like he's hardening up all the time. Be a big, massive win for Holly Doyle, this, wouldn't it? Such a good year.
She's so brilliant. She's absolutely superb. I'd love her to get a win this week. I really, really would. I just think she's brilliant.
What about Tor Hammer Hansen?
That was great. What a ride that was, wasn't it?
What a ride.
Coeur de Leon.
And what a name.
Yeah.
Wow, best name in racing, isn't it?
What a name.
A shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Tor Hammer Hansen.
There aren't enough
Your
official nicknames in racing. There should be more nicknames in racing, but that's not a nickname. That's his name, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. His dad rode a grade 1 on the continent, but never a Royal Ascot winner, so he had that over. Great story as well, and just his 3rd ride back since racing resumption. They were just the previous day, I can't remember exactly where he went. It might have been Chepstow, actually, and they were sprints, and then he came to the
long race he rode the winner of, yeah.
And then he came to the Ascot Stakes for Alan King, and he got the tactics just right. Ross Bridie, who was in the studio yesterday, was really, really keen on him and said when he rode him last year, he got a few things wrong, young jockey. And of course, he was only allowed to ride at Royal Ascot because up until Royal Ascot, you had to be at least a £3 claimer to be a senior jockey for safety reasons as well. So what a story that was. Yeah, I'll be cheering on Ollie Doyle and Luke Morris here. That would be another great story for me.
Luke Morris on a horse called Bodyline.
Well, absolutely. You couldn't make it up, could you? The owners must have had that in mind. Smart's Prescott's horses have really revved up since racing resumption as well. OK, we're ambling down at the start then for the King George V Handicap Stakes.
Just quickly, do you have an issue with Luke Morris's whip action, chaps?
Always.
I just don't know. I just don't get how it's allowed. It looks terrible.
It looks like he's... I don't know. Yeah, it does. You've never seen it higher. I mean, Fallon was high, wasn't he? And Hayley Moore at one point, modelled herself on Fallon. But yeah, and the way he rose them, sometimes, if he does get one beat, you do sometimes think, what? I mean, what?
I know, but on the opposite side of that, He's a nice fella, gives good feedback apparently.
He
I saw
does.
a really nice video actually. I think it was one of Gay Kellaway's horses. He was giving fantastic feedback on the horse. He's obviously very popular. He gets a zillion rides. He works hard. But
Gay does film the jockeys afterwards for the owners.
I don't know about you, Barry. I just, you can tell who he is in a race, can't you? And I just don't. Just keep your arm down a bit, mate. You know.
Yeah, I suppose if there was any issue with it, the stewards would have him in over really, Bruce, wouldn't they? I mean, aesthetically, it probably doesn't look the most appealing to an untrained eye, but I don't think there's any issues with it. He is easy to pick out now. Interesting to see there is a few quid knocking around now for Arthurian FABLE. He's into 2.8 in the place market and the 4 places, and Bright Melody just gone favoured on the exchange to
you called it.
You called it, Dave. Yeah.
Right then, all these other proper commentators start reciting the colours at about probably 48 hours before the race and have them embossed on their eyelids. I'm just about having my first look, so
We'll do our best to help you out.
I'll go quiet for a sec.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so last couple going as Bruce readies himself to call the second race here on Racing Post Live. It's going to be an absolute mad scram into that first bend. The jockeys will all be getting their position. Usually it's quite difficult to come from off the pace, so we'll look for any big players that maybe miss it or that maybe have been weighted with out the back.
Who are you expecting to see up early on, Dave?
Definitely Braveheart's horses. I think that's almost certain. I think Ryan will be up there with King's Caper, 2 and 5 up there, so that should give you a steer. You've also got Trumpet Man in the race as well.
OK, they are off for the King George V Stakes over 1.5 miles, and we'll have a look early on to see how the market principles are going. Bright Melody is away well in centre field and is up with the early pace. Kipps is further back. He's grey. We like that. That is always nice and easy. Cutting out the early running, though, is probably in the dark green with the noseband. Who's that? Is that Locked and Loaded? On the inside, we've got Huckham. And on the outer going well is Alexander. Barry, any news from the market as a result of what's happened in the first 2 furlongs?
No, very steady at the moment, but interesting to see Arthurian FABLE pulling very, very hard on the outside. They gave him a right hurry up from the stalls to negate his high draw, but
again,
I'll tell you who else is pulling like absolute mad is Winner Clock for Holly Daw. He really is pulling her arms out of the sockets as they go down to the first bend and head uphill towards the final turn.
Not going quick, Bruce.
Not going quick. It's Alexander for Archie Watson and David Egan, who are setting out the early running from Locked and Loaded. In third is the strong pulling Arthurian FABLE. In fourth is Huckham. In fifth, we've got, can't quite see that one right now. It might be Summer on Seven Hills. It is. Yeah. Bright Melody is reasonably prominent, but on the outside. And yeah, if you're saying, Dave, you want to be on the outside, then that's fine. Yeah. And tracking him through is David Prober on the favourite Kipps.
I'll tell you what, Bodyline's cruising right out the back. He is. The pace scenario hasn't been for him, but he's travelling really, really strongly.
But can he come off a slow pace? I mean, that's going to be difficult for him because, he's virtually last, isn't he?
I'd want to be Convicts creeping into it now. What price is he, Barry?
Convict currently trading at 14 on the exchange. Now they're beginning to get busy turning into the straight.
Turning to straight, no change in the order. He's managed to get Arthurian FABLE settled in third. Coming on the outside now is Bright Melody, but still got a lot to do. Kipps is going really, really well indeed. Kipps is absolutely cruising, but it looks like at the moment it's Huckham who made the first move, Arthurian FABLE, and then here comes Kipps on the outside, also staying on really well. His subjectivitist or whatever it is. I can also see Group 1 Power coming there, but it is Huckham being challenged by Kipps. Kipps is getting there, is he? Kipps and Huckham.
Great finish.
Kipps and Huckham. Huckham is so game in front of him. He's going to hold him. Huckham will win the King George from Kipps. Running on in third is Subjectivitist. And we'll have to see a replay for the rest. But goodness me, Jim Crowley again. Hamdan Al Maktoum again. Owen Burrows gets off the mark for the week. The See the Stars 3-year-old Huckham in a perfect position throughout, 12-1. Didn't get a mention by us judges beforehand, but got it done and saved the bookies a packet.
Take a breather, Bruce. That was hard stuff, wasn't it? Subjectivitist. That was actually a nightmare, wasn't it?
Yeah, how many more syllables
I couldn't have called it and I was trying to read it. Huckham then, what a great attitude he showed. First run of the year, he's only had that's his third run today, never been beyond a mile. Jim Crowley didn't look that panicked when Kipps came to him. David Jennings must have been screaming at the telly at that point. Bright Melody came there. He didn't quite see it out. The back markers, Winner Clock got absolutely mullered in the run. If you were on that, Holly Doyle in the sandwich, that's actually run on really, really well. Bodyline just too far back. Convict, I'm looking at him. He just didn't pick up. Probably ground for him. First run back. Looked like Subjectivitist was coming at one point again. He really ran a big race. I think there's a big handicap in him. Probably over further.
Group 1 Power as well was running well.
Group 1 Power from 5th placed. What was 5th place, do you think, lads?
That was, I was going to say it's Arthurian Flame, wasn't it?
He's run a blinder, you know.
And you've gone first 4. It always happens, doesn't it? Always happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he did get knocked around a bit, in fairness now, when the winner went by him, just kind of squeezed him up a bit. But the winner's done it well. On Burroughs' horses seem to be hitting a bit of form too. First time in a handicap. Jim Crowley again.
Well, and drawn in 4. So there goes the wide draw. And they just went so slowly through the middle parts of the race. It'd be fascinating to see the time, I think. So that was knocked on its head. You saw the jockeys tried to fan out. Actually, those that went widest really got in each other's way. You had to be up there. What a lovely attitude this horse has shown.
He certainly does. Really game, isn't he? And I've already been done and given a yellow card for swearing on this show during the Cheltenham Festival. So I'm glad I didn't say what I was going to say as they crossed the line, which is, Huckham says.
Lads, is there a bit of a doubt about the resolution of Kipps? He traded at 10s on in Haydock and he didn't get it done. And he's traded at 1.35 today and didn't get it done. You can't say he didn't have every chance.
Oh, he's had absolutely every chance. I thought,
Would he just not go by, or is he just out battled by a better horse?
Well, what do you think?
It may well be
the
case.
It is a 50-50, isn't it?
You know, as his career progresses, we'll tell whether he's one of these horses. And just, again, for people who possibly don't watch racing all the time, racehorses are herd animals. Most of them are very game. They've been bred to be game and answer the jockey's urgings and get to the front. But some just don't like it. You know, we've seen some classic ones down the years, haven't we? Archibald and all these ones. They just do not want to be at the head of the pack. So that's what Barry's talking about there.
Well, he's had 4 races now, Bruce, and he's second in 3 of them.
Listen,
he did win one, though, Barry.
He did win. He won a neck.
I'm tempted to say, Barry, that the winner is a lovely game horse. And it probably the next one will reveal a bit more. However, just look, we can see the replay here. We see the head on. Let us know what you think out there. Did he shirk the issue somewhat? The favourite there, Kipps. He did go off industry SP 9-2. Huckham 12-1. Is that how Barrow's first Royal Ascot went on? Tempted to say it is.
I don't know.
I'm tempted to say it is. Sorry, only if I've got that wrong. But there's your result from the King George V Handicap Stakes. Bound to be top form as the season goes on. Huckham 12-1. Jim Crowley.
That was a great ride, wasn't it? Because I know you're saying you want to be on the outside and you want to slingshot off the final bend, but to me, with that short straight at Ascot, that's exactly where you want to be. On the inside, in control, in contention. And the other thing is, Dave, there was a bit of love for the inside of the track there, with some of those horses coming up there later on, particularly Group 1 Power and your one, Bodyline. They came up the inside and they didn't look totally inconvenienced. Having said that,
he has switched out, and maybe that's to get, I don't know, maybe that's a very good move that by Jim Crowley, isn't it? Yeah. If the jockeys have watched Kipps and they've talked about him, and they do this all the time, even though they're socially distancing, they will be talking about each other's rides, and a very interesting eyeball move, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. We need to, by the way, pass on about Winner Clock, who has given Holly Doyle a horrific passage, pulled her arms out for the first 3 furlongs, then got involved in scrimmaging as they came in, and that's run on for about 7. That's a decent run, that, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I was on it, and I knew 2 furlongs out I was done, and Bodyline was too far back, so I didn't get the money there. Bright Melody, a quick word for him. Bruce didn't quite get home.
Don't think so. No, I mean, as they've straightened up, he's gone wide. And I thought, he's just about to launch a little challenge, but it petered out extremely quickly.
Yeah, I mean, they just, usually in that race, when you were talking about it, we were watching, just as they went round the home bend, he was perfectly placed. And on most other race courses, if you're betting in running, you're thinking, I've got to get on this, I've got to get on this. Usually, because they've got a stronger pace, the finishes are closing, and it concertinas towards the rail. And Jim Crowley probably wouldn't have got the gap that he got. Verdana Blue was a little bit like that yesterday in the Ascot Stakes, although Ryan Moore managed to get her out of that passage just in time. So dramatic stuff there. The story of the race on the market, Barry, was there anything that really stood out?
Yeah, just a Kipps traded at 1.35 in running. And for my money, just couldn't go by, wouldn't go by. Hookham, Betfair SP is 16.5, hit a high in running of 19, so not a whole lot of movement in his price. There wasn't a big in-running story in the race other than the runner-up trading at the low.
Would you not have expected Kipps to have traded a little bit shorter than threes on there, Barry? You know what it's like sometimes. The market just, we talked about it before over Guineas weekend, they go mad for a closer, don't they?
Like he's hard-ridden to get into contention. He's hard-ridden to get to the quarters of the eventual winner. When he gets up sides him and they eyeball each other, the winner's always going away from him.
We'd have had March, April and May, obviously, leading into this. The in-running players would have got to know these horses a little bit more by now, wouldn't they? And now, all of a sudden, it's such an informative week as well, Royal Ascot, going forward with Goodwood, the July meeting, all that sort of thing. They're going to have a little target on his back, aren't they, I think?
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you think that when we look back at this race in October and November, we'll say, you know, that form's working out really strongly, or hard to say, isn't it?
Messy racing behind, I think. I think there were certainly very good horses in it.
There always is, isn't there? It's full of unexposed 3-year-olds, and you'd have to think that the winner's going to take a big step forward from that.
It'd be interesting to see the time of that race as well. I'm not expecting it to be sizzling at all. One thing to say, the rain still hasn't arrived. They said these weather forecasters, I mean, listen, it would be awful to be a weather forecaster in the current climate. It would be an absolute nightmare. They're always getting it wrong, aren't they?
No, I have no sympathy with them at all, right? It's obviously a hard job, right? But what I don't get is that if you're a racehorse tipster and you have a horrible race like that, you say, well, you temper your language. You say, well, look, it's a hard race, but you know, I just about think this. They stand up there grinning away. Yeah, it's going to rain, and about 7 o'clock it's going to dry up, and then this is going to happen. Use the conditional tense. Just say you're not sure. It might be difficult. People are planning days out and picnics or cancelling events, and they just breeze through it as confident as ever.
I've definitely lost faith totally in weather forecasters, but again, imagine walking through the street. What do you do, weather forecast? Right. You know, it's the one thing we love to talk about.
Meteorologists, I think they've referred to themselves as, is it?
Well, they should put a conditionality of how confident they are. They should say, right, this weather forecast today, I'm 4 out of 10 about getting it right, you know? And they should be accountable. They should have a profit-loss figure.
It is a nightmare.
There's a 6 to 4 chance to get it right.
As a tipster, it is definitely the worst part, in my view, of being a tipster. It's horrid. You do all bases, and like you say, certainly over jumps, it's a nightmare when it just completely changes the day before, watering, etc.
I also think it's one of those boring things about being a racing fan is speculation about what the weather's going to be. Now, it's obviously important, but it's so dull, isn't it? Like, you know, you wake up and turn on Twitter and 20 people go, does anyone live near you, Toxeter? Did it rain last night? I know it's important, but oh my God.
Can you go out with a measuring cup, please, and all that sort of thing? You're right, absolutely. I think if you were on Twitter like Bruce, it would be a bit of a nightmare. But yeah, like I say, I mean, the watering is something interesting, isn't it? Because tracks do get caught out whenever there is a change in weather plans, and they have, in inverted commas, overwatered. We do see it changing at Cheltenham very quickly, don't we? Not to really single anyone out. But anyway, we're digressing somewhat, but hopefully you're learning a little bit and enjoying the debates out there that the three of us are having in the studio. Myself, Dave Orton, Bruce Millington back in the chair. You're back on Friday and Saturday?
Yes.
For the double header?
Absolutely. I got my first commute by train today.
Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, normally you get to the station at 7:30 and, you know, you're queuing for a coffee and then you're vying for it. I live in one of those stations that you kind of borderline whether you get a seat or not. So you have to be quite sort of. You have to know which part of the platform the doors are going to open out, and you know
station etiquette.
You have to study your form about which carriage is likely to be busy and which one isn't. Today, you virtually get a carriage to yourself.
When you were editor, did you commute every day by train, or was it mainly?
Well, when we were at Canary Wharf, I used to drive.
You had the car
so
park.
I used to be at the mercy of the Blackwall Tunnel, and I did that for 20 years. And how that didn't break me, I don't know.
Right.
And then now we're here. I just get a 35-minute train ride.
Who's to say it hasn't? Who's to say it hasn't?
Exactly.
But what you
feel
say
like
about
a
that,
broken man after 10 races of Royal Ascot 2020.
You're right. I mean, you know that I made the occasional visit into the office. I was mainly a remote worker for what we did. But if you're one of those that if you weren't a regular on the station, people would be like, he's standing in my spot. And that used to absolutely do me. So yeah, look, I've been on the train a little bit. It's getting busier in London. And one man that hasn't had to make the journey too far every day, but has been with us so far is Barry Orr. How are we getting on, Barry? 2 days in, couple of races in. You got the. I mean, how is that for you? Do you have to go and clear your head after this show, go for a little stroll, or have you got more Betfair stuff to do?
No, yeah, well, we do a podcast, a Racing Only Better podcast. After this show, I'll do that with Gary O'Brien and Kevin Blake and get that out. And then I'll bring the dog for a nice stroll, clear the head, like you say, and get a good look at tomorrow's card. But yeah, it's all go. What a great week. But I tell you one thing, the 72-hour decks have been some help. And I'm sure in your game as well, it's the same. And hopefully, post-COVID and when this is all over, that they'll keep it at least to a minimum of 48 hours in Ireland and the UK. That'll be great for everybody, I think. It's just a win-win for everybody. I don't see what the pushback here. We've had this conversation before. I know, Bruce, you guys we're all singing off the same hymn sheet, but hopefully the trainers or whatever horsemen have pushed back on this, that they'll see the benefit for everybody involved.
Sod the trainers, doesn't matter what they think. They're the ones who've resisted. They resist everything. Every time anyone tries to introduce something, the trainers don't fancy it. So what?
Yeah, quite
Go
right.
and do something else. Go and train another sort of animal. Go and, sorry, but we cannot be held to ransom by the trainers. 24-hour decks is a bloody joke. It's an absolute disgrace.
Would you keep it at 72?
No, I wouldn't. I'd make every single horse race, whether it's jumps or flat, doesn't matter at all. 48 hours, and then grade ones and races like the Northumberland Plate or the Cesar, whatever, I'd make them 72. Because you know you're going to run in it or not, don't you? You haven't got a choice. Oh, I might go for the Ebor or I might not. You're going to run in it. So let's get 72-hour decks out. And if people are thinking, well, what does it really matter? What it really matters is that punters can get more engaged. They can spend more time studying. The bookmakers can come up with more creative markets. And the media can come up with fantastic infographics and new angles that will enrich the reading experience for the punter and get people more engaged. It's really, really important. Now, I don't mind if Tupney Halfpenny races aren't 72-hour decks, but I really, really do believe that in 2020, any regulator that is still allowing 24-hour decks should be ashamed of themselves.
This is surely the time for jumps racing, isn't it? July the 1st, when they're going to have to do it to keep it sticking. It's also important for places like, Australia and America. They need to see the decks way in advance as well because of their time zones. And, of course, they're betting into the pools and all that sort of stuff. So.
Can you imagine the people who run the racing in all the states in Australia not doing something because the trainers don't fancy?
They'd be lynched, wouldn't they? Absolutely. The punters basically rule down under. So listen, flip-flopping jurisdictions, but you've heard it there from Bruce. 48 hours, decks need to stay. Now, we're approaching the Group 1 of the day, the Prince of Wales Stakes. We've got a little stat back for you. There you go, some juicy stats then. We'll get a bit nearer them to the time of the race as well. Group 1 time then here, the Group 1 of the day really. It's all jumbled about, isn't it, at Royal Ascot at the moment, but the Prince of Wales Stakes has kept its slot. Fascinating race. There are 7 runners. Let's have a look at exactly where Japan, our headline front page paper horse, is at the moment. Of course, you remember he won at the meeting last year. He ran then in the International. He smashed that up. A fantastic field there, beating Ulysses, and he went on to finish 4th in the Arc as well. And always really thought that this was a monster 4-year-old in the making. They've sold a half share of him to a businessman in Japan as well back in February. You'd have seen that on the front page of the Post today. Lee Mottershead covered that sublimely. And this is a big, big, big moment for Ballydoyle. I just want to go to Barry quickly, Bruce. Is this the big hitter of the season for Ballydoyle?
Yeah, at this stage, it looks like he's their primary 4-year-old to campaign over middle distances. Obviously, this is a good starting point over him a mile too, but there's no doubt that his trip is a mile and a half. Obviously, 3rd in the Derby last year. He won the King Edward VII at this meeting last year, and he's 4th in the Arc, and it's a repeat in the Arc where I'm sure all roads leading to Paris. Like you say, Lee Mottershead covered that today in the Racing Post. At the moment, he's 2.52. He's 2.50 to back, 2.52 to lay. I was looking to lay him, but I don't think I'll be laying him at 6-4. He has been as big as 2.66, so I think the market might come in our favour here. Bruce. So I'd like to lay him, but I'm going to put in Bruce to lay him at around the even money, or not even money, around 5 to 4, 2.25.
Okay.
And if just, I'm going to take 50 quid at the backer stake, and maybe if you click keep bet as well, because I'm happy enough to lay this in running if we can't get a pre-race. And the way the market's shaping up at the moment, potentially we won't get a pre-race unless there's a real plunge on it. Because like I said, it's quite a liquid market and it's quite a strong liquidity. So 2.25 around that mark, take 50 quid at the backer stake. To lose 62 quid, we win 50 quid if any other horse in the race wins. That's if we get matched. But if you click keep bet and update, if we don't get matched pre-race, it'll go into play that bet. All bets taken down pre-race if you don't click on keep bet. So if we click on keep bet, if we don't get matched pre-race, there's a chance we can match it in the race, or we can cancel it at any stage. We can have fastest fingers hovering over that to cancel all unmatched bets as the race is unfolding and running.
Okay, and that keep bet is such an interesting feature, isn't it, Barry? Because I think sometimes that I spoke to a punter, and when poor old Toaster was still running, he said there's certain jumps tracks like Toaster and Exeter that are really changeable. And what you do is you lay the whole field at 1.33,
Right.
okay, and you make them all a keep bet. And all you're doing there is you're basically backing 2 to 1
against.
You're backing at 2 to 1 against that. It's so close that you get more than one horse laid at that.
Okay.
And it's amazing how often it does happen. You know, if you've got one of these races and you've maybe got a pace angle, or you've got a favourite you think might dodge up, that can be quite an interesting way of approaching it.
Going back to those jumps, course, you think about the camera angles there, you can absolutely see how that happens. You can't really call it 3 out at either course, can you? And they all sort of stack up a little bit. Yeah, really, really interesting indeed. So so Japan, 13 to 8 earlier, as you mentioned. The poster boy, I guess, for the whole of Aidan O'Brien's operation this week and going forward.
Like, it's where do you see the pace coming from here, lads?
Yep.
You know, like, we know that Adayeb doesn't mind being prominent and close up. Same with Lord North. The filly that Frankie Dettori's on,
Yeah.
she can make it as she has before, but it's tactically, and Ryan Moore says this in his column on betting.betfair, that tactically it's going to be a fascinating race. And, you know, he just might be a bit vulnerable first time up this year, Japan.
Did he sound concerned about the potential absence of pace, and to the extent, you know, did he tackle the issue of whether he actually makes his own pace?
Yeah, they can go on with him. They'd prefer not to, but it's something that obviously Aidan would leave up to Ryan in a situation where if there's zero pace. But you'd have to think Frankie's filly could be a bit keen, and she could potentially try to make the running here. And if she does, I wouldn't be surprised to see Ryan just sit off her.
Probably been the talking point of the race so far. We did it this morning, Bruce, and I threw a Dave into the mix, Barry. I think that if you didn't see his Australian runs, you absolutely would have him down as a midfield stalking horse. But they completely changed tactics around Randwick during the championships down there, and he was toughing it out off the home bend. And look, okay, if the horses that he was beating in Australia, I know a little bit about them. They're not top Australian horses there. Of course, there were restrictions on horses at the time, but they are Group 1 horses down there. They would be probably around about 10 to 1 shots in this race, let's face it. So, you know, but he is a potential pace angle in this. And Medaya, as you mentioned, you go back to that run, of course, at Glorious Goodwood last year, where they went off hammer and tongs. And it's Frankie Dettori. And they've not been wanting to get on with it on the round course so far, the jockeys, have they?
No, they haven't. It's really interesting. I mean, I just wanted to pick you up on the group, the Grade 1 horses in Australia. I mean, you know, if you remember the great Winks debate, is she any good or isn't she? There were so many cynics over here saying, well, you know, Group 1 form in Australia is Group 1 3/4 form over here.
I mean, she was a completely different exception to the rule. She would have won all those races that Dave was in. There's no doubt in that. I was fully signed up to her fan club. I think I backed her on her first run somehow, and. You're right. A horse that leaves Andre Fabre, who hasn't quite made the grade in France, can go down to Australia and thrive for James Cummings and the like. So, yeah, you do. It's always been a little bit sniffed at because of the calibre of the horse that goes down under. But you have to think about they're all running on top of the ground a lot of the time. They're thriving in the different training regimes and the weather as well. They do tend to peak down there. So, I don't know. It's a tricky one. But, look, he's a Grade 1 winner. The magical form in the Champion Stakes last year, albeit on ground he loved. That puts him on an identical official rating with Japan.
Yeah, but the big issue there is, as you say, the ground he loves. This is not the ground he loves. I just don't think he's going to be good enough. I think Japan is going to have to... There is the possibility that Japan's, obviously with the change of ownership now, half owned by a Japanese businessman, and they're all obviously ARC obsessed. It is possible that, you know, one of the not the conditions of sale, but one of the big talking points between the new connections was, look, I'm buying this horse because I want to win the ARC with him, and therefore you've got to ask yourself, do you campaign him heavily in spring, early summer? See, what would normally happen is, I think you come back maybe, you know, running the Corrie, and then maybe at Royal Ascot, and then you'd be kind of let down for a couple of months, and then come back for an autumn campaign. With the truncated flat season, it remains to be seen what happens with that. It's possible he won't be absolutely 100% today, but at the same time, he's favourite for, you know, one of the Group 1 highlights of the week. So I would expect him to be perfectly forward, and I think he's going to have to be very short of his best not to win this. I thought the run at York was really, really good.
You napped him earlier, didn't you?
Yeah,
on the
and
show
I've just got not a zillion negatives, but I've got negatives about all the rest. I think with Adib, if it's heavy, he's up to this, and if it's not, he's not. I think Lord North, that run at Haydock was okay, but I don't think it's good enough for the best of what Japan can throw at you. Barney Roy's had a couple of decent wins over in the Emirates in the winter, but, you know, and I know that Charlie Appleby says they've got him back to his best. By the way, you know, just a refresher for Barney Roy, if you think, hang on a sec, wasn't he a good horse a few years ago? Yes, he absolutely was. So good he went to stud, but unfortunately, as with some of them, after 7 months, he didn't have a whole lot of lead in his pencil, and so he's back on the racecourse. The one I'm really interested in, but not particularly enthused about, is Headman.
Yes.
I think that you get this with Roger Charlton horses, you get it with Sir Michael Stout horses. There's almost like a built-in assumption that they will definitely continue to improve, you know, as they get older from season to season. Again, I just look at Headman's form, and I'm not seeing anything that's going to make me back him to you know, jolt the favourite here.
He's a massive horse, Headman, which I'm sure you've seen. He's a bruiser.
Are you taking a mick there?
No,
we talked about this on the show.
I know,
they are all
but
the
even
same
your
size.
eyes would have
They're
seen.
all the same size.
Even Bruce's paddock Millington's eyes would have seen that he's a bruiser horse. So they're hoping that he has got a lot more to offer this year. If you remember, he won the London Gold Cup by a short head off a mark of 95 last year. The trainer that's interesting in this race is Roger Charlton. He doesn't waste his arrows at it. Now, I know that we've had a completely mad preparation, and this is probably the first port of call he's had to run him in. But he's had just 2 runners in this. Al Kazim obviously won it, and he had a place as well. So look, he's a target. Look, I think if he won this, none of us would actually be surprised, because we'd be like, right, this is a beautifully bred horse that's been biding his time, typical Charlton campaign, and he goes and does it. And I think he's got his ground as well. But certainly, yeah, on form, I do take your point. Lord North is interesting on form because he beat El Arkam, who, of course, was 3rd to Japan in the International at York. So, you know, if you're rating Japan on 122, Lord North has to be bigger than 112. Let's have a look at the social comments if we can. Something coming up, and we've got in my ear. Tom Barras, here we go. Tom, nice to have you on. Why is Frankie on Medaya and not on Lord North? Seems a bit strange considering the betting. Yes, that is a tad, isn't it? Medaya, he was on a lot last year, but if you remember, Rab Havlin rode her in the Oaks, and Frankie got it right on Annapurna, despite the fact that Rab Havlin rode Medaya at Chester. So, yeah, I suppose that is a definite curveball, and it's interesting that she's kept in training. Let's see what DJ thinks.
Yeah, the Prince of Wales Stakes is fascinating this year because I'm trying to find a pace angle and I can't. I wonder will Ryan try and make it on Japan, because you know he needs a test of stamina. He's a better horse over 12 furlongs than he is over 10. But I wonder at the prices, is Frankie the value here on Medaya? He tried to steal it from the front last year, trying not to give Hermosa an easy lead in the Nassau Stakes at Goodwood. They probably went too fast. That run behind Deirdre is actually not too bad a form with hindsight. And I think this could be a Frankie special from the front of Medaya. I think he might try and make all. I think Japan is the most likely winner, but he's priced accordingly. So let's take a chance on Medaya, maybe without Japan in the betting.
So DJ giving a big tick there for Medaya as well. Should we have a reminder of the market, chaps, and see exactly what he's trading at the moment, Japan? I guess if Mogul had run a lot even closer, or certainly if he'd have won, we wouldn't be looking at a 6-4 shot, would we, Bruce? Yesterday, it's all about latching onto the.
Yeah, I'm not sure really. I guess not. But I mean, look, the point is Japan is north of 6-4 on the Betfair exchange, and on most people's interpretation of form, that's just got to be too big, hasn't it? I mean, Barry's very sensible here. He wants to lay Japan, but he's put him in at 5-4 because he knows that's his price. And Barry, if you don't get done at 5-4, you're not going to quibble about that, are you? But it's just, everything has its price, doesn't it?
Of course.
You've got to be guided by the prices. And so many, you'll be amazed how many punters aren't. They're like, well, particularly in football, you'll go, like Dan Childs and Mark Langdon, the two really good tipsters, they'll be like, well, I fancy Bournemouth to win at Everton today. And they'll be 9-2. And they say, Bournemouth aren't going to win at Everton. Well, the likelihood is they're not going to, but the price dictates it's
a very
too big.
attractive
Everything
price.
Is all, and you get cynics who say you can't eat value, blah, blah, blah. It is all about the price.
No, I totally agree. Value hunting all the way. Barry, would you agree with that?
Yeah, very much so. For me, it's all about the price, definitely. Yeah, here, like the thing I suppose punters are looking at with Japan, especially, is that Aiden with these horses, they do come on significantly for their first run. We saw it with Rushing Emperor in the last race. Wasn't able to win a Derby trial behind the stablemate. Comes and wins the Group 3 Hampton Court. We saw it yesterday with Mogul. Somewhat disappointing, it would have to be said, but I'm sure he'll improve for that run. And the likelihood is the market is suggesting that we're going to see it here with Japan. He's too easy to back. Like he was 266 at one stage. He's 256 now. You've got money for Lord North too. That Aircram form is pretty solid. Like Aircram's a 1-2-0 horse, so you'd have to mark up Lord North on that. They're pitching him in at the deep end here. Headman's not without a chance. Medday out for Frankie, not without a chance. Even Barney Roy. Now I'm never mad keen on the UAE form coming back here in the spring and into early summer. But at the moment, I think I'm happy enough to lay him a 5-4, but I think I'll be cancelled in running because I have a feeling you're only going to get it matched in running if he's going to win. And that's something that I think we'll cancel all unmatched bets maybe pre-race, Bruce.
Okay, we'll do that. But, I mean, should we do that now? Because, I mean, he's not going to get smashed up. Well, I suppose you never know, do you? But there's no point, is there?
Just leave it for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
We've still got 5 minutes and, a large volume of liquidity will come into the market. Maybe not enough to make it a 5-4 chance, but there will be a large volume of liquidity coming in these next couple of minutes.
You think about when he won the race last year, Japan, the time boys were all over it because it looked like they went slow and horses were pulling, but it was one of the better times of the week. He again circled the field that day. He was lathered with sweat, I remember as well. If you see an SWTG in a comment, that means that the horse is getting a little bit crazy. So don't let that put you off with this horse. And it'll be. I'm really, really excited to see what this chap is going to bring to the table. His first one of his 4-year-old campaign, because he could potentially, if he goes and win. And this was something I was watching the highlights from yesteryear on some channels earlier, and your Dubai Millenniums. I want to see one horse this week absolutely destroy a field. Could this just be it?
There seems to be a lot of confidence behind Lord North. Like he's 12-1, he's into 5. He's over halved in price, and good strong sums up there to back him. Like
I've got a bit of a theory with him. I said this to Bruce earlier that when he won at Haydock in the Brigadier Gerard, that was run at Haydock this year, a couple of weeks ago,
which we covered, the three of us covered.
We did absolutely. I'm pretty certain he idled that day, and Elican was coming back at him. And I think that Medaya in this race is and that's why another reason why it's interesting that James Doyle takes the ride instead of Frankie is because it could just, if they do go hard up and something takes each other on up front, perfect for Lord North.
Yeah. Do you think Lord North it was his first run back? He was just maybe getting a bit tired as opposed to idling.
I thought that at first, and I've watched it a couple of times since, and he's the one of all the horses in here that I'm not back because I just don't quite think he's good enough to beat Japan. And if he wins, I will be kicking the metaphorical cat onto the table. I will.
The market now, Japan's out to 264. Like you couldn't back him with bad money by the look of it. He's a 13-8 chance of drifting out all the time.
Just trying to look at his demeanour down at the start, and we're trying to see him. You could see Barney Roy on our cameras at the moment. He's held his price as well, hasn't he, Barney Roy?
Yeah, he's just beginning to tick out now, and Hedman as well. He's out to 12. Frankie's is quite solid. Let's go for glory here. Let's do a 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go Japan. I'm going to go just about Lord North second, even though I was slightly concerned with the way he tied up late on at Haydock. And I'm going to follow in DJ with Mayday. How do I say? I need to practice.
Medaya. It is a tricky one.
Medaya.
I'll be on Sky one day and get
So what's your 1, 2, 3, Barry?
I think I'm going to go Tom Marquand's mount, Adaib from Lord North from Japan.
Ooh, only a bronze medal for Japan. I'd have it the same as Bruce, but I'd chuck Hedman into mix. I think he will look at one point like he's got a right
You
chance.
guys are big Japan fans, yeah?
Absolutely.
You must be loading up at this now.
I have, yeah.
I think you were going to get 266 about him.
When you were waxing lyrical, I was beavering away, actually.
I have as well, yeah. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about the drift. We bet there's only 7 runners, and Bangkok is only 29 on the exchange, so we better give him a mention, Dave.
Yes. He was beaten by Japan at last year's meeting by 4 lengths. So, look, again, I was surprised to see him as big as he is. He'd really disappointed, if you remember going back to the All-Weather Championships in his prep. It was the Winter Derby. It was long odds on to beat called a Dubai Warrior in that. Really disappointed. And he's not been seen since, and I don't know. It looks like Banks got off him.
He's a tongue tie back on today.
Oh, yeah, OK, fair enough. That's
2.7 is the point. I have to go back in on Japan.
Sylvester de Sousa could do with a winner, couldn't he? He really could do with a winner. It's a big week for King Power. Really fancy their Foxtel tomorrow, the favourite in the Wolverton Stakes. I can tell you that now. There is extreme confidence behind that chap, providing it's not too soft underfoot.
I tell you what, talking of confidence, Medea is suddenly gone in from 18 to 12 in a blink of an eye.
We've got one or two more going in.
It's a really interesting market, this, because Adaib's come in very short as well. So he's 4.9 now as the Japan drift continues. 2.78, my goodness me. I mean,
I'd say cancel that bet for me, Bruce, will you? The Japan bet, because the way this race is going to run, Japan's going to be held up, and the only way you're going to get, I think I'd get matched at that price is if he looks like he's going to win. And
they're in and they're off, Bruce.
Yeah, all in, 7 runners for the Prince of Wales Stakes over 1.2 miles. And the answer to who is going to make the pace is, at this stage, Bangkok with Adaib extremely prominent. Barney Roy is fresh and keen in third. Hedman more like head case. He's chucking his head around no man's business. Japan really prominent on the outside, doesn't want to give any ground away early on. So they've settled into it. Bangkok in front from Adaib, from the favourite Japan, from Barney Roy, and then nipping up on the inside to take 5th is Medea, from Hedman, and finally we have out of the back Lord North. Interesting. What's the market reacted to that?
Yeah, he's riding Lord North nice and chilly. You could be right, Dave, in that they thought he might have idled just a bit and they want to arrive there late. But Lord North is 6.2 at the moment in running. Japan out to 2-1 now. Edayeb currently 4.7. Hedman's a big drifter out to 23.
What on earth has Japan done to be so big? He's going fine. He's tucked in third. He's laughing.
He was rusty from the gates, guys, and Ryan had to rush him up, but he got lucky with the pace scenario. Sylvester's just anking it down now at the moment on Bangkok. Adaib, as we called it, they do think he wants to grind out his races a bit more. Medaya's a bit keen on the inside. That's another story of the race. She didn't go off like the hare. They're turning in, Bruce.
Turning in, and it is still Bangkok from Adaib, from Japan, from Medea, from Barney Roy, from Lord North, and finally Hedman. Push comes to shove now. Adaib moving onto the shoulder of the leader. Coming up nicely on the inside is Frankie on Medea. Japan is third, not particularly going very well at all. It's still Bangkok in front from Adaib. Japan's trying to get there, but he's taking ages. The others are trying to get there as well. And on the inside, we've still got Bangkok. Adaib's come to get him. Here comes on the outside. It is Lord North. Lord North's come to claim them all.
Wow.
Lord North comes sweeping past them all. Adaib is in second. Bangkok's hanging on for third. But this is all about Lord North. Lord North is going clear in electrifying fashion. He's going to win this by 4 lengths. Adaib is second. Barney Roy rushes up to be third. Japan, a very disappointing fourth. So what about that? It is all about a fantastic ride by Lord North. The Doyler switched him off early and came bursting through to win at 5-1.
Do you know what this reminds me of with James Doyle there, Bruce? Great call. You didn't think you were probably going to get that animated, did you? But they were all fanned out across the track. He picked up some spares last year, didn't he? Crystal Ocean, of course. He's done it before in King George's. and he's done it here for John Gosden, and that has absolutely hosed up. The story of the race, obviously, Japan rusty from the gates. Rusty in the home straight, doesn't even cover it. He was absolutely legless, waving the flag 2 furlongs out, wasn't he? It was horrible. No excuses whatsoever. It looked like a mile 6 horse to me, never mind a mile 4 horse. Bangkok stayed in there in the race really long. It looked like Hedman was coming up at one point, just too keen early on, surely.
Too keen early on and got well beat in the end. He's plumb last. Dave's run okay, but yeah, you know, you called it. I heard you, and from my right ear, Lord North is coming through, and that was really, really interesting. Now, I'm sure the section listers will be drooling with what he's done from a furlong and a half out there. Really gone clear. Great performance, unlike at Haydock when, well, if he did idle that day, he certainly didn't idle here. Dave's second, probably Barney Roy's come up and just about beat the others who finished in a heat for third. It's not a bad run by Barney Roy, but this race and all talking points going forward will centre on Lord North.
Do you know he made his debut at Redcar? He was a 7-2 shot. He beat a horse called Fox Leicester that day. Just to look, you know, open it up on your Racing Post cards, and he's come out sort of out of nowhere, hasn't he? It was extremely impressive in the Cambridgeshire, Barry, wasn't he? Keith Melrose, the betting editor, said that was the handicap performance of the year. And what price? How big did he go? Was there someone that just gave up on him at one point because he was ridden so cold, Barry, or was he always kind of holding that 5-1 slot and then whoosh, he went right in?
Yeah, he hit a high of 14 in running Lord North. But I suppose the story of the race, Abe hit a low at 2.40. Japan hit a low of 1.97. We would have got matched if we had kept that in play. And Medea hit a low at 2.84. So 3 of them all trading under 2-1. And not the winner hit a high of 14. He did ride him chilly, didn't he? I suppose, like we said pre-race, it might have been a case you highlighted that he just idled him when he hit the front. He wasn't idling today when he hit the front. He's introduced that 4-1 to the Eclipse betting. That's going to be a cracker if Enable rocks up there against Gaia. And you'll probably see Japan there as well.
It makes Elakam look a little bit better, doesn't it?
It does. I was thinking that,
That Brigadier General. If you think that Elakam has also got that third behind Japan in the international, there's obviously another biggie in him, I think, this year. Headman was disappointing, wasn't he? He took him right back, Jason Watson, and he fought him all the way. That was a classic case of a first run back, but he does now have something to prove. Medaille's run okay. I think she's run okay. There's options against her for the fillies, maybe back at the Nassau. The one you'd be delighted with, I think, if you're William Aggis, is Adabe. Yeah. Because he's run a very, very honest race. No problems with the travel to Australia. It does knock some horses sideways coming back, and that was on ground that wasn't ideal for him. They'll be plotting out. I mean, imagine if it was to rain at York. You know, he'd be great also international, wouldn't he?
I think that's the key, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I suppose in a sense the connections won't be pleased that he was beaten so far, but they'll be absolutely delighted that he's run so well on such unsuitable ground. So, yeah, there's a decent run there. But you think back to Cambridgeshire, you'd love to have been on Lord North, wouldn't you? I mean, he was short on the day, wasn't he? He was extremely well back. It was about 5s, I think.
He'd been beaten at Ascot on his return, hadn't he? Do you remember behind Bless Him, the horse of Simcox, that Ascot specialist?
Keels was all over Bless Him for the Queen Anne, and he was absolutely devastated he's been pulled out. It'd be even worse now, wouldn't it?
Because of the ground, and actually it would have been fine for him, wouldn't it, I think, underfoot, but these are the decisions you take. What do we now do with Japan, gentlemen?
I'd say he come on a ton for that run. The market was suggesting that he just wasn't quite ready, and it looked that way, didn't it? He didn't disgrace himself there. There's definitely, they're going to have a lot of fun with him this year.
You think so? I'm not as positive about that. I know in the first one in the Derby that he needed it, but Aidan has said that the prep had been fine this year. I know he came on leaps and bounds from that race. Listen, I guess that will be the acid test, his next race, and going up in trip does look a certainty. But if you're the businessman that's paid all that money for Japan, I mean, that's not going to. If that places in an arc, I'll be surprised.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I mean, the only thing is, unless you're Aidan O'Brien or close to him, you don't know how much he's left to work with.
Yes, I don't want to be second-guessing Aidan.
But it's quite brave to sell a horse of that value, sell half a horse like that, and just say to the new connections, oh, we're taking him to Royal Ascot, but I haven't really got him ready. So it might well be that he just simply hasn't progressed. And, let's remember this as well. They did sell half the horse.
Yeah.
Now there are those who would say, well, if they thought it was that good, they wouldn't have sold any of him. But
I guess with the breeding operation down in Japan, it would have been a super sire with that name had he gone indeed won an ARC or indeed been close to it. And let's face it, he has won a Jobmont International as well. The story of the race. So punters, how are you feeling about the loss of Japan? How are you feeling? Who got on the plunge on Lord North? And I think, Barry, you called it. He was, what price was it? His biggest on Betfair before he came right in.
Pre-race, he had been matched at around the 12 mark on the Betfair exchange, and he came right in. He's a Betfair SP of 6.6, hit a high of 14 in running.
Rated officially £10 lower than Japan, although we did sort of say on a line to Elicam, that's probably wrong. It's a high-class handicapper, really. So the Brigadier Gerard one, I mean, we've got the rating as 1-1-12 in the paper. I'm just going to see what Racing Post rating he ran to in the Brigadier Gerard. Yeah, it was a lot higher than that. It's actually 116, his new rating. So either that hasn't kicked in there or the cards have just underestimated him slightly. So, yeah, look, he has run to around about 120 in the Brigadier Gerard. So
we were talking about Kevin Morley earlier with Trends. He put that one up, so fair play to Kevin. That's a decent tip.
Yeah.
And I can reveal that his tip for the Hunt Cup on Trends is Dark Vision. And our much loved colleague Paul Keeley has been tipping Dark Vision and backing him every single run.
What a cliff
for
horse
probably
it
the
is.
last 10. And I texted him when I saw his tips last night and I said, no Dark Vision. He said no. And he goes, you know what that means, don't you? He wins.
And this could actually go off favourite for the Hunt Cup coming up.
Yeah, blimey, the market here's had a little shake-up, hasn't it?
Yeah, shall we have a look then, guys, at the market for the Hunt Cup? Moving on from the Prince of Wales, if you've got any questions about that whatsoever, form-wise, where you think horses might go, what was wrong with Japan? Was it first time out? Are you with Barry? He's going to come on a ton and win a few races and give him a bit of fun, or are you more with me? Not sure about the ARC now. Let us know. RP Live has the hashtag. YouTube and Facebook as well. Here we go then on the screen. So Montatham, I'm sort of surprised at this after the silver version, guys, that this was still holding his head at the position of the market in stall 5. I guess the top horse of those drawn nearest the rail, Fox Premier for Richard Hannon. Well, there is Dark Vision then, along with Lord Tennyson, who you like, Bruce. These two look like they might fight it out, and Bell Rock as well.
Yeah, this market, we were talking with Barry before we came on air about how one of the features of today is that in these competitive races, the horses at the top of the market had been smashed. But that's kind of corrected itself here because Lord's, it's much, much more competitive than it was at lunchtime. So you've got 3 horses at single figures on the exchange, but it's now back out to what you'd expect a Royal Hunt Cup market to look like. So it's 8 the field. So it's, the punters have realised potentially that whether they've had their fingers burnt with short ones, I don't know. But, Lord Tennyson is back out to 8. I think he was much, much shorter this morning. Bell Rock's the other one who was really short. He's out to 8.4. Dark Vision's coming. Montaham's coming. And again, let's have a look at the effect of the draw from the early race and what that's done here. Have we seen a bias towards high-numbered horses? Well, in so much as Willie John, who was drawn 4, is right out to 29, and he was quite fancy this morning, yes. But then Montatham, who's drawn 5, is solid there. So people aren't completely writing off these low-drawn horses, I don't think. But
interestingly, Kevin's right up now. I remember it. He said that Dark Vision and Montatham were the 2 that ticked every single box. And yeah, there were some of the 4-year-olds. I just looked at the 4-year-olds, guys. So what have we got? 1, 2, 3. So 5 of the first 6. Favourites are 4-year-olds. I looked at the 4-year-olds, the sexier ones, if you like. I just found it almost impossible to choose between them. I mean, Bell Rock really liked his win at Newmarket when he scuppered your Uzo. Uzo didn't really back that form up, did he? But I watched the finish again. He probably won with a little bit of hand, I think, Bell Rock. Lord Tennyson, great run at Newmarket. Frankie and Gosden. Are the inexperienced side of that? You're not so worried about that with horses' nature?
Not really.
Nasidi used to rock up with a very inexperienced horse in these races and usually win it, didn't he?
I just think, I've never actually seen a horse lose a race because it was like, what's going on here? I just think they from their very early 2-year-old days, they're running with people on their back, with other horses. They know they're doing all right. The field's bigger, but
I think that would put me off slightly, the big field issue.
What's going to happen? How does... Dave, I'm going to get after you here a bit.
Yeah, go on.
How does inexperience manifest itself?
I'll tell you, obviously over jumps, experience counts a lot more, right? That's what they're always saying. But if you look at the fields that he's been running in, for example, he's running an 8-runner field and a 10-runner field. If he gets covered up, Has he ever had the experience before where he's got to switch around a certain amount of runners? There will be horses coming at him from all over the place.
But you get
if
that
it
in
gets
8
rough,
and 10 runner fields as well. We saw it the other day at Sandown, and I can't remember the horse I backed, but there was it was Ryan Moore on a horse in a 5-runner race at Haydock, I think. And I'm like, why? There's a whole massive wide racecourse here, and you're running it down a single lane of a motorway. Yeah. So 8-10 runners is perfectly enough to get him covered up. I don't think inexperience is going to be an issue.
I take that point, but on the flip side, a horse like Circus Maximus yesterday, he's definitely got better with experience. And if you eyeballed him at the start of the career, I guarantee you he's not doing what he did yesterday. So there is a flip side to that, I think. So for me, and it would be interesting, someone said this morning to us, didn't they, on the show, it might have been Pat Cooney for Bet365, I can't remember. He said, when was the last horse that had 2 runs to just go and win this? So I don't know, the stats boys have probably been looking at this. It hasn't really been mentioned, I don't think, has it? I don't know if Kevin in his column has said how many runs you've got to have.
I'll look it up while Barry gives us his verdict.
Barry, what do you make about the experience or lack of experience for Lord Tennyson?
Yeah, I think it's crucial, but I don't think the connections would be throwing him in here. John Godson's not one to overphase horses. Obviously, he's got a handicap mark after 2 runs, which is a new initiative. 107 doesn't look anyway lenient in my eyes for him first time into a handicap, but he is a 4-year-old, so he should be able to take it. Wouldn't interest me though. One I like at a big price is Wargrave for George Baker. Not many horses I've backed haven't won at Samaritz last time out, but he did. He won on the snow. But a run I like, that was his first run for George Baker since getting him from Fozzie Stacks here in Ireland. And he had a good run for Fozzie Stack behind Fox Champion in the German 2000 Guineas. He was only beaten 3.5 lengths that day. And I think there's still a bit of juice in his handicap market around the 102. So I'm going to back him in the place market, Bruce, if you would kindly get involved. And I'm going to look, first of all, so in the win market, what's he currently trading?
It's 100. We've got to back him at 100, Barry.
Sure.
He's 100 in the win market.
Yeah.
Just take your time there, Bruce. Take your time.
No, I'm excited. When a great judge like Barry Orr tells me that he fancies a horse, and I look and it's 100, I have to back it.
If you go to the place market in the Betfair Exchange, there's place markets for 3 places, 4 places, 5 places, 6 places, and 7 places. So I'm going to back it in the 7 places in that market where there's 7 places on offer. So to finish in the first 7, Wargrave, he's currently trading at around 5.8, 5.5 now. Yeah, 9-2. I think that's fair enough price. I have us 25 quid on that at 5.5.
Oh, hang on. What's happened? What's gone on? Something weird's happened. Hang on. I need to cancel that.
You're on KENZAI.
No, I don't want to do that. Right, so where are we? Wargrave. Okay, mate.
Wargrave, 7 in the market.
25.
25 quid, yeah. He's 5.6 there. Take the price. I'm happy enough to take that price. And then go into the win market.
Yeah.
And he's 100.
Yeah.
And just for a bit of fun, because you've embarrassed me into doing it in the win market, we'll have we'll have a tenner on him at 100.
Good man, Barry.
Just for the hell of it.
I'm just looking at George Baker, and I'm trying to remember.
Here we go.
I'm trying to remember what horses he's had go very, very close.
Belgian Bill, he won this with a couple of years ago.
Belgian Bill.
Of course, yeah, he did, yeah.
There you go. That was in 2013. Thank you, Barry. I was into
Barry, tell me this, right? On the mentality of a punter, and the mentality of betting always fascinates me. You fancy this horse, right? If I hadn't made you back him at 100s, you were only going to back him to finish in the top 7. The only result there that would have satisfied me if I'd done that is if he'd finished 7th. If he'd finished 6th, I would have been moaning that I didn't back first 6. If he finished 5, and so on. And if he won and I'd backed him to finish 7th, I'd never have another bet again.
He was always going to pick you up on that one, Barry.
That's an insight into the way you think, Bruce, more than general punters. But just for me, the price correlation there to finish in the first 7 in a race like this, I think he will run well. I can't see him winning the race, but I'd happily be wrong in that respect now, having had a tenner on him at 100 for racing welfare. But I just think in the 7 places gives me a better chance of drawing some money for the charity. And
okay,
I think it's probably fair enough.
Now, Dave asked me which of the trends pertain to experience with regards to Lord Tennyson. And what Kevin's come up with is that the last 10 years, the Royal Hunt Cup, the winner has won or been placed in a field of at least 14 runners 9 times out of 10. So that corroborates what you're saying, that experience can be a factor.
I'm feeling a little bit better after that. Yeah, I remember that Kevin does bang on about big field form, and I think there probably is something there, especially when it can get rough there. Wargrave, of course, ridden by Paz Cosgrave, so there's a bit of a morbid double there, but he comes from 21, Barry, and he looks like he might be a pace angle. Barry Orr has just given you out there a monster price runner in the Hunt Cup. Barry, you there? Yes, you are.
I certainly am.
You
was
just
that
pressing
a question?
up there?
I thought that was a statement.
It's not. No, I was kind of. I thought you might just give us a little summary on it. It looks like we caught you there pressing up. Were you getting involved?
Yeah, this is it. He's having his real bet now, isn't he?
That's right, absolutely.
He's got his little burner account and he's smashing up all the top 2, top 3, top 4.
Fantastic.
Not at all. No, like I said, his first run for George Baker, he won in St. Moritz. So he's at it, like, obviously it's back in February before the shutdown as well. But just going back to when Fozzie Stack had him here, he never ran a bad race. And he was beaten 3.5 lengths by Fox Champion in the German 2000 guineas. And that for me represents a bit of decent form as well. You know, I still think there's a bit of improvement in him off his mark of 102. So I think he'll run well here. And, you know, it's a very difficult race. He's drawn 21, so I'm happy enough about that. He's going to be over this stand side where I think the pace is going to be as well. And I think you want to be that side of the track. I don't think you want to be up the middle, and you certainly don't want to be over the far side. And I think I can see them splitting into 3 groups here.
Oh, no, don't say that.
Simon Holt got worried there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave, I'm going to give you Keel's and Tom's selections here, and you're going to give me a snap verdict on whether they're good tips or rubbish tips. Okay. Keel's has tip 2, Al Raja and Willie John.
Yeah, Willie John needs the fast ground, I think, Bruce. He's got some. They paid a lot of money for him, Roger Varian. He hasn't delivered so far. They think he's a horse that looks caught in between trips, but he's probably well handicapped with his best form. He needs the fast ground.
Al Raja?
Al Raja would have run, I think, on All-Weather Championships Day, and it looked like he was going to be one of the all-weather horses of the year. He looked like an absolute superstar around Lingfield. Now, obviously, polytrack horses do, historically very well at Ascot. And he has got turf form as well. And the way they're going at the moment, can we see him defying a mark of 109 in a Royal Hunt Cup? Yes, it's top weight. Yes, I can.
Got the right jockey on board as well, Jim Crowley.
Exactly. And Gosden bidding for a quick double, of course. Frankly Darling was his other winner as well. So that's 3 for John in the bag if this goes in. So we expect him to be nearly top trainer, aren't we, him and Aidan, towards the back end of the week. But still 13 with temporary enthusiasm somewhat, wouldn't it?
No, I think that's right. Middle, you got a chance to come across. And then Fox Power and Indeed for Tom Siegel. Who do you like out of those 2?
Yeah, Fox Power, I think, is a horse that I've done some dough on before. He comes off it. He would just look like he'd lost his way a little bit. But Richard Hannon gave him a really good mention in his quotes. If you looked on the members section in your papers today, he said basically he's lost his way a bit, but he's going really, really well at home. And, of course, Hannon won the opener yesterday, the Britannia as well. And what was the other one? Indeed, who comes off the back of a good form run, doesn't he? I must admit, of course, Dominic Frent Davis' horse, Liam Canary on drawn 8, that would put you off. Again, polytrack form best. I don't know, I thought he'd shown his hand to the handicapper a little bit, so that'd be my snaps. But the way the weeks are going, you wouldn't be surprised if Tom knocked in another 28-1 shot here, would you? And
Barry, we haven't seen a real big gamble develop, have we? Is that a consequence of these 72-hour decks, or just that, or not even 72? Because I mean, once it's 48, the market matures in time. But are we finding that the real big hitters tend to do their business well before the runners start coming out of the paddock these days?
Yeah, I think there is an adverse effect on the market in terms of not having anyone on course either in terms of bookmakers. So you're not seeing those kind of when the horses leave the parade ring and people the public begin to bet on what are very liquid markets in Ascot as well for the on-course guys. So the maturity of the markets with the 72-hour decks mean that like come post time or even come when the horses are entering the parade ring, the market is very settled. And we haven't, and couple that with the fact that we haven't got on-course bookmakers who are creating their own market that are sending back to shows, that it's all industry-led now. That's why I don't think we're seeing any big gambles in the last couple of minutes of a race.
It's missing, isn't it, so far from the action we've had? You're
the
right.
Ring.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit. I think the big plunges we are missing. I think you might be onto something there with the decks.
Yeah, it's funny with the Ring, isn't it? Because, I mean, Barry, you mentioned on Racing Post Live a couple of weeks ago that really these days, I think you described them as kind of decorative or ornamental rather than intrinsic to how a market was formed. But
they're very important to the race day and the fabric of race day experience for everybody, like for paying customers, and they still in Ascot they still would take quite a lot of money because they are strong liquid markets and there's a lot of people looking to have a bet. But and they're not our competition, Bruce. But yeah, I think to a certain extent that the on-course at the moment is a little bit missed for what you're looking for, that plunge.
Yeah.
But they are missed because, they add all the colour, don't
Exactly.
they? And this is the whole thing about going racing in France versus going racing in Britain. Between the grandstand and the racecourse in France, there's nothing. In Britain, you've got this vibrant, and in Ireland, obviously, as well, the betting ring, and it's all happening. And yes, it's not the same as it was in the old days where people are turning out with plastic bags full of cash and smashing it on because there's so many different ways. Yeah, exactly. And the bookmakers are obviously tracking exchange prices, etc., etc. But they are still very much missed. I mean, they're just a great part of the traditional fabric of a day at the races, aren't they? But then we're missing so much, aren't we? We are missing the crowds, we're missing the hubbub, we're missing the pageantry and the royalty and the glamour, but we're also missing... I used to love on social media after every night at Ascot, because I'm a massive racing defender and evangelist, and I'd type in "Great Day Ascot" on Twitter, and you just see all these tweets with people saying, first time at Ascot, I had a great day, I had a fantastic day at Ascot, it was a great day. And I love that. I just love seeing people who don't normally go racing go there and realise what a special place it is. It's just an incredible week, and the racing's been fine, the racing's been captivating, but we're missing a whole chunk of it, and hopefully, fingers crossed, next year it will be back. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a pleasure to have it back. It's been really well covered in the media, hasn't it? I saw that last night in the mainstream media, people dressing up at home and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. It's been on the front pages as well a couple of times. Frankie Dettori on a couple of the tabloids as well. Let's get back to the Hunt Cup then, and before we go to mine and Bruce's selections here, remind you of them, let's see what David Jennings makes of the Hunt Cup.
Well, the Hunt Cup, always a little bit of a lottery, but I think I might have found the right ticket this year. I think last year's winner, a fact, is the value. He was second in the race in 2018 to settle for Bay. Last year, he dug really deep to kind of snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. He's only £3 higher now. I'd imagine Charlie Hills has had this race in mind for some time. This is the only possible target he could have this year. He's going to have him cherry ripe, just like Batash was in the King's Stand. And I think a fact with Kieran Fallon book is terrific each way value.
A fake, let's give him a mention then. He's £3 higher than when winning last year, as Dave says. Stall 18, probably his popular winners is a bit of inverted comma. But this could be like a Pertemps winner, couldn't it? He's been here twice, he's gone really, really close, like Buena Vista in the Pertemps at Cheltenham, or Holywell, in the William Hill Handicap, whatever it was, Festival Handicap, that we all used to call it. I think this punters will be latching onto him, won't they? Because he's been there and done it. And Charlie Hills has obviously had a winner already on the week.
Yeah, and young Kieran Fallon had a 200-1 winner the other day, didn't he? So,
and
he's good, isn't he?
Oxted as well was his first group winner.
He's damn good, isn't he?
Very, very good. We're desperate to get him in the studio at some point. We're allowed to get them back in.
The 201 winner he rode was Betfair SP is 611-1. Would you believe? Yeah, massive.
I guess the fun and angle taking 3 off puts him back onto his winning mark as well. Shrewd move, Charlie Hills.
I still think though, guys. I still think with Lord Tennyson, that form line. I know he got well beat by Maurice Diamond. Maurice Diamond got loose at Newmarket that day. It was when everything was winning off the front, I think. But it's still a decent run. And Maurice Diamond, fantastic against Circus Maximus in the Queen Anne. Went out and tried to make all, but stayed on really, really brilliant to finish third. And I kind of feel like that, mixing in some really, really high quality form like that into a race like this with Gosden, with Dettori, I'm happy enough with Lord Tennyson. The market's not mad on him. I mean, he's just about clinging on to favouritism, but I like him. I know you're not going to say, well, you haven't exactly sussed one there, you haven't dug one out, but sometimes, it's quite comforting you don't want to be a mug and you don't want to just row in with the crowd all the time, but right now, I just feel in Gozza and Frankie, I trust.
Say that this wasn't this year and we didn't have our 72-hour decks. Do you think this would be one of the plunges if it was normal year? Do you think this is the one that I'm getting good vibes on Lord Tennyson? I know that he only ran 12 days ago, but if you'd have seen that Maurice Diamond run, handicapper put him in a mark of 107. Could he even give him a little bit more? He might well have done. So I just think this could have been a plunge horse. Barry, is he still clinging on?
Yeah, he's still clinging on just ahead of Belrock. He's been a big plunge horse in the race, really. If you want to look at one that's attracted most support at the head of the market, it's definitely Belrock, with Oisin Murphy in the plate. Was his matched at around a 10-1 when we first went up with the market on the Betfair exchange, and he's into 13-2 now. But yeah, Lord Tennyson, he's fascinating, isn't he? Like, John Gosling doesn't overphase his horses. He gets in off a mark of 107. He must think that's a very workable mark to put him in here after 2 runs. If it is, he's definitely listed class at very worst, and he'd probably need to be off a rating of 107 in a competitive field like this.
Oh yeah, listed class at least, I'd imagine, but it could well be. Let's tidy up the selections. The boys at My Racing sunk with Japan there, Aka, but they did get Russian Emperor, of course, as well. Just remind myself, they've gone for a Fark as well, keeping it simple, going in with DJ. I'm on another Charlie Hills horse. I'm on a horse here called Pogo, which again probably lesser known, isn't it? But he's got the draw. Charlie Hills, I watched his run at Newmarket and I was really, really taken by it. I don't think he loved the dip that day, and he's going to eat up this extra furlong. And if he just can get him there at the furlong marker, there won't be much between him and KENZAI, I don't think, and there's a discrepancy in the prices. Because I couldn't, separate the 4-year-olds at the top so easily, I wanted to go for something at a price he's a 4-year-old himself. It's just the draw. I saw it there. I think, he's got a decent profile. It's going to cost him like 10 grand. He's got some really, really good form in the book.
If you're looking at extra places and each way, does Kinran enter the equation? He's one of those horses, isn't he? Like a sort of modern day kind of GM Hopkins sort of thing. He just, he crops up, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's always thereabouts, but he finds it hard to win, doesn't he?
Is there anyone on the show that's not backed Kinran at least twice?
Exactly. Now, let's see what he is with the old 7 places, because he's 2.56. If you were patient, you might get 2.7. He's one of those ones, isn't he, Barry, that you could just, I'd be commentating, and by the end of this, I'd be desperate for breath and scrabbling around to find, about 18 of these have got blue colours. It's going to be completely impossible. And Kinran has got 2 shades of blue to make it even worse. But I could just see myself calling him somehow in the mix,
Yeah, he's the navy and the blue, hasn't he? In navy and blue quarters. He's a horse that, he always rocks up and runs his race in these big handicaps. He struggles to win, although he did win, didn't he? 7 furlongs last October at the track with Ben Curtis in the plate. He's a warrior of a horse. It was probably a nice pipe opener for him behind Space Blues last day in Haydock on his first run back just 10 days ago. That was a hot enough race as well, the Spring Trophy. It's a listed event, good to soft ground. So he's going to appreciate getting back in this race. And he'll run his race, Bruce. He always runs his race. And yeah, he's not without a chance. I can't see him winning, though. He doesn't, very rarely does he actually get the head in front.
No, that's fair enough. And of course, Barry, with all these extra places, what you could do is, say you wanted to have a tenner on him to be placed, you could have £2.50 on 4 places, 5 places, 6 places and 7, couldn't you? Which gives you a chance of copping the lot, but gives you some kind of consolation prizes if he's nearer 7th than first. There's so many different ways to bet now, isn't there?
Yeah, and as you decrease the amount of places, you increase the price, because the likelihood of it happening increases, obviously. So say if he's a 5-1 chance in the 7 places, he's going to be probably a 4-1 chance in the 6 places, and 8-1 chance in the 6 places, should I say, and so on and so forth.
Barry's still going with the top hat, isn't he? I've just noticed it. Is it glued to your head?
Okay, I wanted the Queen's horse to win for it to come off.
He took it off at the beginning of the show yesterday. I said if it stays on for the entirety of the week, it's 101 Gub. There he goes. It's come off again.
Oh, come on. That's cruel. I mean, if it's... Have you
got
the windows wide open?
I've had a bet with my colleagues that I will wear it for the duration of the broadcast of this show, or until the Queen has a winner and I can take the hat off.
He didn't even throw it in the air when the studio came down on my head. Just go back to Kinran, guys.
Is that a big...
Yeah, that was an eye like you won the Gold Cup, wasn't it? He's had 6 runs at Ascot, and only once has he finished out of the top 6, so that's solidifying that point. And his record on good ground is mustard. It is really, really good. And David Barron's horses, 0 from 17, I've just reminded myself of that. They have been needing it. So yeah, the pipe opens there. Do not be surprised if Kinran comes there absolutely swinging at one point. When he did win, let me just remind myself, last season, it was at Ascot, you remember, on the soft ground. I was at York at the Dante meeting, at the Ebor meeting, at the time before he came second. He looked sure to win. Of course, I went, that's it. No more Kinran. A bit like Kills and Dark Vision. And of course, he comes to Ascot on the heavy ground. You think, I'm not going to have a bet. And he goes and wins. So, but he's coming down from listed company. It's just whether he might want a claiming jockey on him now, mightn't he? I know that Ben Curtis knows him so well, but just to take that 107 down a little bit, I think the handicappers absolutely got him. They're ambling right behind the boxes now, Bruce.
We've talked about Kinran so much there. I've had to back him, and I've backed him in the top 6. So he's going to finish 7th. Yeah, they're ambling down towards the start. I must say that the starts at Ascot have been a lot more punctual this year. I mean, perhaps any race that isn't French, because do you remember when there was those 2 weeks before we resumed and we're all watching France?
Oh.
They just, I mean, those times were basically just a general indication, weren't they?
How do they get away with that? Remember, just before we went into lockdown, we were debating the race times, weren't we? All these different 106s and things like that. France, it just doesn't matter at all.
It doesn't. You might as well just put the hour and they'll start sometime like that. But Ascot is a course that they've been fairly kind of casual with start times, but they've been going well. They're very punctual this year. And of course, the stalls handlers are doing a fantastic job because, they're working with slightly depleted resources, aren't they? And they've got huge fields here. So they've done absolutely brilliant. I cannot think. One of my bugbears about following racing is that I spend far too long watching animals being loaded into metal cages, i.e. starting stalls. And I was sitting there one day and I was watching it. I thought, my God, how much... on the radio when you hear these things and they say, the average person spends 13 years asleep and 6 years in their car. How much of my life have I spent watching horses being loaded into the stalls?
Do you think he's got an issue with this, Barry?
I do.
Do you think he's overanalyzing it? You accused Ross Bryan of that yesterday.
How long we've all spent watching races.
Yeah, but I don't mind a race. A race is
That's
exciting.
Sleeping.
Watching horses getting loaded into the stalls is not interesting.
Channel 4 used to be big on it, didn't they? I remember that. They used to do it a lot.
I must say, I said to Chamberlain when ITV got it, I said, obviously we're all armchair experts in the same way that when I was editor, all my friends and racing
of course.
connections were all armchair editors. But I said, please, don't cut too early to the start because watching these horses getting loaded in is so dull. And, I'm sure Ed would have known that anyway because he's called most things right. But they tend to go there. They'll be chatting away, good punditry and lively stuff and interviews. And then they'll say, right, last one going in. And that's fine. That's what I want. I don't want to see horses spending ages getting loaded.
Well, I guess our show is the absolute flip side of that, isn't it? To remind you, if you're new to the show, Racing Post Live here with the Betfair Exchange, myself, Dave Orton, Bruce Millington, and the big hitter from Betfair, Barry Orr, our sponsors. Barry's been having a pretty good week so far. Again, it's early days, Barry, isn't it? With our playing for charity. We're still waiting for someone to nominate a racing charity, by the way. I think if they don't do it by the end of the day, Barry, we'll give you the honour of picking that one. I'm not exactly sure how we're doing. I imagine we're around about evens, are we, at the moment with that?
Yeah, I think we're winning a few quid.
Okay.
Yeah, it's honours evens probably, if the truth be told, but it's Betfair's money, so we'll just put it in we put in the plus column.
And after this race, we will be a third of the way through. We'll have had 12 of 36 races. Breaking news from the exchange is that Wargrave will be back to 100. He's out to 170.
Oh my good God.
What on earth is that?
Are we topping up, Barry?
No. You don't put good money after bad.
That was
the market's suggesting that it's no chance, but I'm happy enough where we are with that. I'm not greedy.
Should we talk about the average SP in this race, just while they're waiting to load up, and we don't want to concentrate on that too much. There's only been one single figure SP winner of this, and it was Gosden's GM Hopkins in 2015. I guess you're looking at the average. It's just higher than 10 to 1, really, probably. It's sort of 14, 16 to 1, I think, is the average SP. So I'm looking down for some 100 to 1 winners, Barry, and 28 to 1 Invisible Mangs. Rui Feng, who ran earlier on the card, and Afak as well. They were both in the 20s as well, so look, it can happen, but we're going to need
this doesn't have to win to make me happy, Dave. It doesn't have to win.
There you go. Exactly as Bruce said earlier, lots of ways to bet these days and to make it pay.
This market's closed right up. I mean, we're looking at the SP on screen and it's bearing no relation to the Betfair market. Here we have 5 horses within a couple of points of each other. Lord Tennyson just about clinging to favouritism at 8.8. Al Raja is currently the second shortest price
That's
at
a big
9.6. Really big move. Bell Rock out to 9.8. Dark Vision at 10. Montatham is 10, and then it's 12 Fox Premier and Afak.
The public seem to have latched on to Jim Crowley, to tell you the truth, lads. Yeah, Al Raja was as big as 15 this morning and is into nearly 8 to 1 now. Yeah, so Jim Crowley to ride a double.
I'm delighted for Jim. He genuinely is one of the top sort of jockeys out there, personality-wise. They're all good lads, really, but Jim in particular. And it looks like he could be the new Frankie Dettori of the week if he'd taken that. But he's got these rides. He's rarely in the wrong place, Jim Crowley, is he? This will probably happen now if you're back to Raj. I don't want to jinx it for you. He's one of those jockeys, a bit like Neil Cannon used to be before he went to Hong Kong. That's probably why he's so popular out there. They've always got more or less the right position.
And isn't it mad that he was a jump jockey for so many years?
Like PJ McDonald and all the rest. Yeah, absolutely.
That's really strange, because I mean, you often get, or you used to get, flat jockeys going over jumps when they, when the weight issues hit. But to do the other way, it's kind of like a Test match bowler suddenly reinventing themselves as a batsman, isn't it?
Very much so, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And he like I say, massively deserves it. But he's ridden extremely well. He's shown all the right attributes so far. And as Barry said, the punters do tend to latch on to these trends, and they go for these people that are, when you're hot, you are hot. And it will be getting, I mean, I guess at the end of today, if you're a jock, you've had some fancied rides, you're not ridden a winner, that's when you start to get a little bit tetchy as well.
Don't talk to me, I'm learning colours.
You concentrate on the colours, because there are just a fair few of them. The 23 going in, of course, into the Royal Hunt Cup. We're at that time. It's the cavalry charge. Are you excited out there? Whichever way you've gone, good luck. We're about to call them home here. You'll be getting all our reactions through the race as well. We'll be telling you what's happening in the market.
Dave, your job here is to get the first 7 home.
Is that right?
Okay.
Is that right? Well, thankfully, Bruce is calling it, so I will get the first 7 home, no problems. Bruce, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Right, orders and off in the 2020 Royal Hunt Cup. Very smartly away out of stall 1 is Card Sharp for Mark Johnson. That one cuts out the early running. Going well down the centre of the track. Looks like another Braveheart in Vale of Kent. And also over on the far side is Willie John in the yellow colours, going great guns. Down the near side, quite prominent early on, is Wargrave. Aye, the old Wargrave's going well. But the pace is on the outside, but only 4 of them have gone on that far side.
Wow.
And they are Card Sharp, Willie John, Beatboxer, and something else that I can't see, Raising Sand. So everything else has come over to this side. So basically we've got 20 runners on the stand side, 4 on the far side. One of those 4, Card Sharp, is cutting out the early running under Adam Kirby. And on the near side, it's his stablemate Vale of Kent and Joe Fanning. Also prominent is Indeed. I can see up there is Al Raja. On the bang on the stand side looks to be Fox Premier.
I'm cruising.
On the far side, I tell you what, this Card Sharp's still in front, I think. But if we think that it's going to be the near side, I think we're still looking at
cruising, Pogo.
We're still looking at Vale of Kent.
Callum.
Come on, what's happening here? Help us out, chaps. Who's the grey coming down the middle?
That looks like. Listen, here comes Pogo.
That's Montatham.
Come on, Pogo.
Montatham.
Aye, Pogo.
Montatham.
Come on, you're going to eat this
Where's
final
Pogo?
furlong. Come on, Pogo.
Montatham the grey.
This is it. I'm getting
Montatham the grey.
Come
Where's
on,
Pogo?
boy. Come on, the Pogo.
Dark
Come
Vision.
on.
Dark Vision coming bursting through. Dark Vision from Montatham.
Yeah.
Dark Vision from Montatham. Dark Vision wins the Hunt Cup from Montatham and Pogo, and then I think it was Vale of Kent, and I can't see anything else. Wow, Dark Vision.
Paul Keeley, it immediately makes you think of the Cliff Horse. He's gone and done it. If you're out there, Paul, and you're listening, please tell me you were on. Absolutely remarkable scenes. Obviously, probably as you might have gathered, I thought Pogo, my 33-1 shot, was going to nick it. He's finished third. It was all near side again, guys. Brucey did. I mean, that was just. I guess you got a little bit lucky towards the end because they all came near side. But calling exactly which one it was not easy, was it? It was Vale of Kent, of course, who's got so much big field form. The 4 of them have come well clear. I feel absolutely gutted. I got to be honest.
I'm just trying to see who else is up there. Bell Rock, I think, got 6th. So if you took the extra places about that one, you're doing.
It was Vale of Kent that was 4th. So we're watching it unfold here. They're coming up to 2 fun. Just look at on the near side at Pogo in the green colours. You're calling everything away from it. I'm just like, just get the gap. Just get the gap.
You went so early with that. That was a dreadfully early shout.
Look at him. He's quick and he's
totally
beautiful.
Put me off, man.
Get a low at 2.9.
What price?
You get a low at 2.9.
That's because people were listening to him and they thought he had a chance. Had no chance. What about Dark Vision? What was the biggest Dark Vision got, Barry?
19.5 was the biggest the winner got at Dark Vision. He's a BSP of 9.86. Montatham for William Haggis and Dane O'Neill hit a low 1.27, 7-2 on.
I'm trying to look for Wargrave. Is he? I think he got. It's really difficult. To tell,
last, I'd say at the
Last.
finish.
it was Baltic Baron that was running on.
Lucky you weren't offering 23 places as well, Barry.
I guess.
We'd have done our money.
Fantastic. Well, I do apologise, Bruce, for putting you off.
No, that's all right,
But
mate.
there's a 33-1 shot, and it's Dave Orton in the studio. It's probably the decibels are going to go. At least the old studio held up there.
No, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. It was a great run. It was a great suss. You finished third. I hope you did it each way.
I had a good each way bet on
Good
it,
man.
and that again. Listen, it's easy to say after the race, but if you watch the videos of his run, at Newmarket, he really probably should have ought to have won that. And he's just a horse that people don't like because of his colours and all that sort of stuff. But he's run an absolute belter, and he's coming back at the finish. Actually, Montatham, was that who it is who's finished second in the?
Yes,
I
it
don't
was.
even-
Yeah, the great.
What a
yeah.
run that is from stall 5, because they all came over. I mean, morally, he's kind of the winner, isn't he? He's caught on the wing the whole time. He's got no cover whatsoever. He's drifted all the way over. Under Dane O'Neill, that would have been a big win for Dale. But Dark Vision, my goodness gracious me, do you remember when he won the Vintage Stakes at Glorious Goodwood, lads, all those couple of years ago? Everyone thought it was the second coming. They sold him the Syndicate. It looked like the best decision they'd ever made. I'm sure he's won loads of prize money for Godolphin.
Lads, you'd have to say the favourite, I don't know whether you've seen a rerun of the race, but the favourite got no sort of run whatsoever. Well, Lord Tennyson got no sort of run whatsoever. Everywhere he went, Frankie was stopped in his tracks. You could definitely mark him up.
Okay, so listen, again, replays, look at it, read the analysis. You'll be hearing all of that and seeing that. Yeah, there it is, Barry. I've just seen it, in the all blue colours. Frankie got absolutely kiboshed.
Oh, yeah, no, nothing doing there, is there?
No, and there's just so many hand-down colours and blues, aren't there? It's just a sea of blue.
Absolutely. And on the far side, who's that? Raising Sand running really well for Jamie Osborne, leading them home on the far side. Has that actually got a play? No, it hasn't because of the draw. Who's that in 5th then with the black and white? I thought that was Wargrave.
We think
Baltic Baron.
I thought that was Wargrave. I did as well. I was like, he's got it. But actually, he's finished, I think, 2nd or 3rd last. Fox Power looked like he was last to me, I think, in the King Power, or it was either him or Fox Premier, actually. But look, that was the Hunt Cup, and that was pretty exciting, wasn't it? I mean, I feel happy to have had a 33-1 shot in the shout. But again, this talks about what sort of punter you are. When you try and knock one out of the park like that, and it goes so close, it's as you with your Beckett, it's just a bit like, what could have been. So I need to wipe myself down. But I love the Hunt Cup for that reason. Usually, if you can get these prices, do not be afraid of a price.
Look at Braveheart and his mask. He looks even more scary there, doesn't he?
He's lost a bit of weight as well, didn't he?
He had the virus.
He did have the virus, and he's lost a bit of weight. He does look rather menacing. I have to be honest.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a great training performance, isn't it? I'm still waiting for the Paul Keeley text to see whether he had one of those bets where he said, "Look, I can't let this go unbacked."
Kevin Morley
trends. Dark Vision, great
He's having
effort.
a right old role,
really
isn't he?
So we'll bring you Kev's selections for the last 2 races as well, albeit I'm not sure how much trends are going to apply to the next race. But again, Barry, looks like there is a real proper draw bias here. Or is the fact that there are only 4 runners on the far side potentially a deterrent to getting too stuck in? Perhaps the draw bias exists because the jockeys don't want to be on the far side, so they're not going to be there anymore.
Yeah, it did look at one stage, Bruce, as if they were going to split into 3 groups. The group in the middle side had to merge with the stand side, and I suppose the lads who were drawn on the far side, their fate was sealed from stalls, wasn't it? They weren't going to try to track over, and they stayed and ploughed a lone furrow up that far side. But it'd be interesting to see here now in over 5 furlongs. Obviously, this is the first sprint we've had all day, and be interesting to see what way they go here. If you're drawn high. Are they all going to come across the stand side, or will some of them stay over the far side?
It probably is going to be down to the Wes Ward horses, I would imagine. Barry, but we'll get to that. In that race, that Hunt Cup, I can tell you absolutely 100% that was down to the jockeys. They could have gone far side if they wanted to. Raising Sand has run a blinder because he's the one that wants a proper deluge as well. Jamie Osborne's got such a good record in these big handicaps, and he will be back for more. He's got a legion of fans Raising Sand as well.
But the thing is, with the track bias debate, it's now not low or high. It's about medium or high. So let's see the front 5 home there. You have Dark Vision drawn 11. That is middle. Pogo 23. He's high. The second was Montatham drawn 5. So it's possible to get across and still do your running, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Montatham has shown that if you take the decision to go early, you can do it. Absolutely.
Baltic Baron drawn 19 and Vale of Kent drawn 12. So in actual fact, and what we've seen so far, really, Dave, the front 5 in the front 6, in the consolation race, 18, 17, 21, 19, 12, 14. there's not a lot between middle and high, is there?
No, absolutely not. And we'll get to the sprint in a minute. First 2-year-old race of the week, but there looks like right down the middle, there's some very, very likely pace setters. Sunshine City, Sheriff Bianco, and Mighty Gurkha in particular as well. In fact, let's have a little look at that now, shall we, guys? Let's move on. That was the Hunt Cup, the drama that unfolded. That was absolutely fantastic. And I've got to say, guys, for me, I know it's weird to say this out of a 24-runner handicap, but the flat season is now well and truly back. The 410 then coming up. The first 2-year-old race of the year. Juvenile's been put back to the end of the week, of course, to give them more time to get over their prep runs that they've been trying to get in to qualify for this. They've all been nominated. A wide open running of the Windsor Castle, which is usually, if not the last race on the Tuesday, it's certainly on the opening day. So it's usually quite a difficult race. I'm going to suggest early doors that this is probably a pretty good renewal, I think. People desperate to run their 2-year-olds, and we've got the right colours here as well. Bruce?
Sorry, there's a postscript. A tragic postscript to the Hunt Cup. Paul Keeley's just texted me, and to recap, he tipped Dark Vision probably the last 10 times the horse has run, okay? He was bowled over by that vintage win and just said, I'm going to follow this horse, I'm going to follow this horse. So there's a text conversation last night when I saw who Keels had tipped. I said, no Dark Vision, ! And he said, no, so you know what's going to happen, don't you? And I said, yes, I do. So I've just had a text from him. Hope you pressed up once you knew I wasn't backing it.
No.
So he hasn't backed it. And even sadder, I did have a press. I'm such a bastard like that.
It's a cliff. It's a cliff moment. And you know who won the first race as well, don't you? Sabuska, who beat it at Newcastle. So the form, we can see why I guess punters were making it any favourite. I must admit, I've done a lot of dough. He became very well handicapped, didn't he? So listen, if you kept faith with Dark Vision, congratulations. Paul Keeley, if you're listening, or indeed if you're watching this back later on, we'll probably have a word about this, I imagine, a little bit later on in the week. He's coming back in the studio tomorrow, actually. Do not miss that. So, drawing breath a little bit. How do you feel after that call? I know I got you. You put me off, man. I got that quite right. That made me giggle, I got to say.
The thing is, right, there were... It's, I suppose, like the Les Dawson line, isn't it? Playing the piano. They're the right notes, but the wrong order, or whatever it is.
Who's this guy?
Some of the horses were all right, but what it does, okay, and you can try this at home, and anyone can sit there with the racing poster, the race card open, and they can have a go at commentating. And the one thing you will realise, A, you're not as good as you thought you might be, and 2, it makes you realise that Holt and Johnson and Hunt and Hoyles are absolutely superb. They're the best sports commentators there is. You couldn't get a football... And they should do it one day. They should get Martin Tyler or maybe...
To have a go.
Or maybe Mike Atherton to have a go. You know, it'd be really interesting. But they're so good. That's just mayhem. You're just looking at this blur of blue silks coming at you and you're like, what the hell's going on?
Could you imagine on the flip side of that, someone like Mark Johnson doing a football match? You'd be like, has he described one kick? I just know everything about that player's history. Do you know what I mean?
And as soon as the ball goes over the halfway line, taking dead aim!
Shouty man, as he has been labelled. But listen, Mark is the most extensive prep man you've ever seen. And obviously he's a top commentator.
Who do you think's the best? Who's the best of those 4? And are they the best 4?
Hopefully they're not watching.
Why? What's it matter?
Well, I'm good mates with Hunty, you see. So I'd like to say Hunty really. Tony Ennis I put in that mix.
No, Enzo's really, really good. But there's a big 4.
I love Enzo. You're right. I'm still, because of my age, probably Simon Holt, I think. Just some of the classic calls I've had. Falbrav, do you remember that? Some of the absolute... because I think of my memories, that would be mine, yours.
Well, what Simon does best is completely lose his, I won't say the word, in the last 50 yards. To me, he has a kind of commentary orgasm, doesn't he? You know, like direct route against, I can't think who it was, but just absolutely, just brilliant. So he's probably best in a finish, probably technically Hoyles is the best. Hunt can just nail it. But there's something about Johnson with those Cheltenham. I remember Unsinkable Box, and I was like, I just think he's magic. But they're all superb. Barry, who's the best?
I'm not really listening to you, lads. I'm just looking back at a race in Newcastle there where Dark Vision, wasn't it? Dark Vision beat the...
Sabuska.
Busker, that hasn't worked out bad, has it?
I don't know what sort of delay there is, Barry, but we've been having that conversation, then we moved on to talking about commentators.
Best commentator, Barry, very quickly. You can join in quite quickly. It wasn't that substantial.
Best commentator is a colleague of mine called Ryan McHugh, and he can take off any of the commentators you've mentioned there and does a serious Jerry Hannon as well. without a shadow of a doubt, Ryan McHugh. He actually won a competition on Twitter recently for commentating. But for my money, back in the day, Des Scal, long before, when it was Xtel, you probably remember that, when you got the blower into the shops. If Des Scal was on, when you knew straight away, he had his terms that he would use. You'd hear something like, "Oh, I'm waiting in behind." You knew, aye, this is going to win if Desi's calling it that. At the moment,
always
for
used
me,
to like
John Hunt's a different class.
Yeah, John Hunt's great. I always used to like it when what was Scahill's one? Oh, putting in a tremendous late bid. I always used to love a horse that was putting in a tremendous late bid.
See, you can do the next race like that if you want, Bruce. We'll see how long you last. But also that it makes you remember Jerry Scanlon. Who was it? Roaring Bull.
Roaring Bull!
It was absolutely
brilliant, that one,
different class.
That was orgasmic, wasn't it?
Yeah, again, that seems like a different aeon ago, but it was earlier this year. Okay, so there's some commentators for you, and yeah, Bruce, you're doing a good job, man. it doesn't get much easier in the next race. I'm not gonna get. I mean, and then you've got, of course, we've got the mile 6 handicap. At least you get a bit of a breather through that one, can't you?
You're doing that one.
Am I?
Yeah.
You want me to have a go on that?
Yeah.
Absolutely no problem.
Do you fancy one, Barry?
No, that would be something.
It wouldn't be my forte now, Bruce.
What do you think is mine?
You're doing a better job than me.
All right, I'll let you off. You can be my wingman on the prices.
Maybe on Saturday we might get you to do one, Barry. How does that sound? I think the viewers.
Well, if he's still got that hat on by Friday, he won't be on Saturday. He won't be in any fit state. He'll have lost 4 stone.
Friday's my last day.
Perhaps
if the Queen's horse wins here, this is coming off.
Okay.
I told you that. That's the.
Okay, so
as soon as the Queen has a winner.
So look, we're having loads of fun here on Racing Post Live. Myself, Dave Orton, Bruce Millington and Barry Orr over in Dublin joining us every day. Actually, Barry, you've got a couple of days off coming up, haven't you? We've got Neil Hubbard, who did so well for us during Cheltenham. He's coming in tomorrow as well, isn't he?
Yeah. It's a long old stint, boys. So Hobbs fancies a shot back at the seat, and I'd gladly give it to him tomorrow. And then on Saturday, obviously, it's a really busy day, and Premier League football's back, and we'll have to do a load of stuff. So he's very kindly offered to do Saturday's shift as well. So 3 for me and 2 for Neil.
Okay, fair play. That's how it's working. Great. Well, can't wait to have Neil back in tomorrow. Shall we have a little look at the Windsor Castle Stakes then? As aforementioned, the first 2-year-old race of the week, the first American runners of the week as well. And I guess that's one of the stories in the market, isn't it? That the Wesley Ward horses are usually, when they price up these races, Bruce, don't they? You think, right, well, Wes is going to be towards the market, top of the market, if not on top of the market. Tom Segal, I think, has put up Sunshine City from memory.
Oh yeah, let's give you the Racing Post tips, shall we?
Yeah, let's
see what they're. Well, we better start with old Kevin Morley, because he's the man in form, isn't he?
Is he on a 4-time?
And he's gone for Mighty Gurkha for the 10-year trends.
Yes, suggesting that this wasn't such an easy trends race, but he did fit a lot of the stats.
Yeah, Tom's gone for Sheriff Bianco, one of the American challenges. I think Keels might have sat this one out as it goes. Yes, he has. Keels, he's got 1 left in the last. So that's the word from the front end of the Racing Post. Who are you going for again, Dan?
I've gone for Sunshine City in this. Let's get the tips out of the way then. I've gone for Sunshine City on the fact I said earlier on the show, a feature show that we did. Thanks to lockdown, I got to see Sunshine City's debut. It was supposed to be on the turf track. They moved it to the dirt, which is something that happens in America when the turf track is deemed to be too wet. Drifted all the way out in the betting. She looked beaten at the furlong pole, and I think this stiff 5 is going to be ideal. She got up on the line. Frankie Dettori on, Lady Aurelia, you know how it works. All those great 2-year-olds that he rode for as well. And I'm surprised it's 7-1. It's a likely pace angle in the race as well. Still do for me. Bruce, where did you go?
Well, I've gone with Chef Little Hawk. Again, the latest in my hopelessly boring tips today. Not just boring, but unsuccessful as well. So I've got my back to the wall. But I just feel that because Aidan's got to, pinpoint from all his sea of 2-year-olds. He's got to pinpoint these horses, and he's got a vast array. That's a clue in itself. Chief Little Hawk did what not many Aidan juveniles do: win first time out, beat his other one, Hyde Park Barracks, very nicely indeed. So, do I think 6.2 is huge value? No, but am I happy that I'm on the horse that's got a great chance of winning? Yes. Chief Little Hawk.
Chief Little Hawk, and I think, Barry, on yesterday's show here on Racing Day Live, you said that you've spoken to Joseph O'Brien. He was talking up his dad's horse strongly, wasn't he, Chief Little Hawk? Are you surprised it's as big as it is now in Exchange Land?
Yeah, I am a bit. He's out to 5-1 now. It had looked like he was going to be a 7-2 chance. He was favourite in the head of the market. At the head of the market in front of Tactical, but they flip-flopped a bit now. Tactical 4-1, 5-1, Little Chief Little Hawk. But yeah, I'm with Bruce on this. I really like the way he went about his business. first time up. He made all. He looks really fast. He's by Air Force Blue. And I think it was a very speedy 2-year-old, and they're very keen to get him. He's a first season sire, so they want to get him off to a flyer, and it looks like they will with Chief Little Hook. Joseph was on our Royal Ascot preview the other night, and it was his nap of the meeting, which you have to sit up and take notice when you hear that as well. Tactical, it was a good race. It looked like it was a decent race in Newmarket. He just got stopped in his run, and he didn't get knocked about. He was well looked after by Oisin Murphy, and he's there with every chance. Sheriff Bianco, we had Wesley Ward on our pod as well. Sheriff Bianco, he was one that Wesley did like. He was drawn wide in Churchill that day, and obviously you're on the outside when you're drawn wide in Churchill, and you're straight onto a bend over that 5 furlongs or 4.5 furlongs, and that just cost him the race. And Sunshine City, I didn't like the idea that she was due to run on the grass, and they, like you said, they ended up running the race on the dirt because they had so much rain. And she promises to be better on the grass, but you'd like to have seen her gone and done it, wouldn't you, really? No, for me, Chief Little Hawk, yeah, I think he's a decent play here. And I'm going to back him, Bruce, if you can, at around the 6 mark there. There's, I think, 3,300 to take. You can have on at 6.0. If you take 50 of that and have it on, that'd be great.
What's this bet that we've already had, Barry? Have you nicked in there?
That was there's a £20 bet on Chief Little Hawk already. That was a free bet streak bet. So if you had a bet on 150 yesterday to Queen Anne, no matter what you backed, if you had a 20 quid bet, we gave you a free bet. And if that free bet wins, we'll give you another free bet, and we'll continue to as long as you back a winner or until you back a loser. So the free bet streak, £20, is on Chief Little Hawk as well.
OK, Bruce Forsyth, I'm your Anthea Redfern. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, so if you just take 50 quid there at 6, I think he's going to come in. I think the market's going to come well through. I think there's going to be plenty of money for Chief Little Hawk here in the next couple of minutes. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go off favourite in this race.
We're done.
Seems to be very... Yeah,
I was tempted to shout higher or lower then, but I thought I'd better not. It seemed the perfect case to do it. The draw, I suppose, is the issue, guys, isn't it, for this play of Barry's and Bruce? They're both pressing up on this.
Only if they come up the stand side, or
yes. Well, I think we've got to assume they probably might, Barry, go middle to high. Just to give you the draw stats on this. If you're looking at it, we've got only 2 of the last 8 have been in a single figure stall. Our Dad for Gosden, really, that was a 20-1 shot, somehow won from stall 1. Stall 1 is definitely the coffin box in these races. And Washington, D.C., Aidan O'Brien, the right horse from the O'Brien camp, can do it to get that, spin it back a little bit. So who's in 1 here? Get It. The horse that was ahead, of course, of Tactical, the Queen's horse, who... from a speed perspective, if you are into your speed figures and things like this, I use something called Split Second, which you can get on Raceform Interactive, and the top 2 came from that Newmarket race, which was Get It, finishing second ahead of Tactical in third. The winner that day, of course, was Eye of Heaven for Mark Johnson, who I think we might see later in the week. That of those that have run on grass, that's the best one. I then immediately looked at Mighty Gurkha, who won so impressively at Lingfield. To back that up with some time, Archie Watson, of course, has won this race with Soldier's Call. Turned out to be the best part of a Group 1 sprinter. The time was just okay. It wasn't anything great, so it probably wasn't the greatest of races, but boy, didn't he win that well. He got really stirred up before the start as well. That, again, a bit of a Lord North for this for me. I'm going to let him ride. I'm going to let him go unbacked, but he's the one that I'll be frustrated with if he goes and wins, I think.
Mighty Gurkha.
It
was a really good win, wasn't it? I mean,
6 furlongs.
It's easily the most clear-cut victory that any of these have registered.
And they smashed him in the betting.
They smashed him. What I liked about it was the race was put to bed really early. As soon as they turned into the short straight at Lingfield, it was all over. And sometimes when they do that and they come in and they've still got that furlong and a half to go, they'll actually start coming back to them. But this one didn't. So you don't really know the quality of the opposition. That's the question mark. But if you were just looking at videos of all these races and said, right, which one are you going to back? You'd obviously be on that, wouldn't you?
And to remind you, Kevin Morley, Trent's column having such a good day, it is Kevin's pick in this, so he ticks a lot of boxes. Drawn in 11, and we think he'll be up there as well. So I think if you're Chief Little Hawk, he made the running, didn't he, at Navan last time? And I think would you try and Barry latch on to one, something like Mighty Gurkha, one of the Wes horses, or are they just going to go bullet on, off we go?
Yeah, I don't think Chief Little Hook is going to have to try to make it. I think it was just a case in Nace that day. There didn't seem to be, or in Navan that day, there didn't seem to be a whole lot of pace, and he was happy enough to go on. They knew they had a good one, which was a good sign. But I don't think he necessarily would have to. He has to get off in front. It's going to be very tactical, like you say, because of his draw. That's why he's the price he is, really. If he was one of the plum draws in around 19, 18, 19 or 20, I think he'd be clear favourite at around 3-1.
Okay, so Chief Little Hawk, could it be tactical for him? And listen, we're talking about best bets at the meeting. Josie O'Brien's put this up as his nap to Barry. There's a best bet of the meeting coming from David Jennings.
The Windsor Castle, one of my strongest fancies of the entire week. I am a massive tactical fan. I know Chief Little Hawk was very professional at Navan, but tactical, while he was beaten, blew me away at Newmarket. And missed a break a little bit, showed really good early gears to get himself just off the pace in that race at Newmarket. We know what Mark Johnson thinks is the winner. They think he's an absolute star. And I just wonder if Oisin Murphy was riding a handicapper that day, would he really have went straight through that gap and barged his way through? I think he might, and I think Tactical might have won if that gap didn't close. In the circumstances, Oisin did the right thing. It was the first time out for Tactical. He wants to give him a nice experience. He eased him back, and then he ran on again up the hill past a couple of horses. It was a lovely first experience for Tactical. Straight after that race, said no matter what race in Royal Ascot he runs in, he is going to win it. So he turns up here in the Windsor Castle. I think he's going to win it.
Strong stuff from David Jennings. And Tactical drawn 20 right up against the rail if Oisin wants it.
Yeah, I mean, you'd rather be there than in 2, wouldn't you?
Andrew Balding, though.
It's James Doyle, isn't it?
Sorry, of course, because he's riding for Qatar, Oisin, apologies. James Doyle going for a double, of course. And it's not the sort of horse that you associate connections with, is it? 5 furlong, sprint ball, 2-year-old race for Her Majesty and Andrew Balding.
No, I mean, when I heard David being so keen on this, I went back and had another look at the video. And it's easy to get drawn in, I'd say, with this horse, because on the one hand, the gap closed just before he was looking to make his move. On the other hand, you didn't think Oisin was really that fussed whether he took it or not, because it was obviously just to, give the horse some experience.
Yeah.
He stayed on okay, he hasn't had a hard race. So, yes, I can understand why, if you stare at that video enough, you can be really impressed. But I still think it's really short. I just think 4-1 is too short for this horse. I don't know. We're talking about everything as his price. Of course he can win. Of course he may well come on a ton for that and be absolutely fine and get this done. We don't know how good the field is, but to me, it's just a bit short. So
what would you have him at? What he was, his morning price was around about 6-1, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's 6-1. You could look at it and you go through the video, and let's face it, apart from Mighty Gurkha, nothing's really blown anyone away. The American horses, if you like them, which you do, that's all well and good. But I don't know. This isn't a race. I don't think that. I know DJ's very keen on Tactical. It's one of his bets of the week. I don't see how you can have a bet of the week in the Windsor Castle. I just don't see it. There's not enough clues. There's not that piece of form there isn't enough for me to say, oh, this is a fantastic price. But I respect David Jennings so much that you're almost inclined sometimes to follow him in just on the back of that. I don't know. What do you make of Tactical?
Yeah, Barry, Tactical.
Yeah, I think he's. It was a funny one. I thought in Newmarket the gap was there, and Oisin gave him a very sensitive ride. I think very much they didn't want to knock him about and sour him in any way, and they had very much an eye on Ascot. He should benefit from that, but for my money, when you're talking about the likes of Tactical and Andrew Balding, I don't really associate Andrew Balding with these really speedy 2-year-olds. I suppose you could say the same to a lesser extent to Aidan O'Brien, but because he's by Air Force Blue, and Air Force Blue was very much a speedy 2-year-old himself, I think it's a different proposition this time around. That's why I'm so keen on Chief Little Hook.
He was your archetypal not train on, wasn't he? Air Force Blue, the Guineas plunge, and he never raised a leg in that from 2 to 3. Hardly saw him again. In fact, did we see him again? I'm not sure. They've also got another Air Force Blue in here, Barry, and there seems to be a little bit of pressing up on this, I guess because of stall 17 as well. But he was third to Chief Little Hawk, and it's Hyde Park Barracks with Sean Levy on. That's an interesting jockey booking, of course, because a classic winning jockey. He started off at Ballydoyle, didn't he, Barry?
He did start off in Ballydoyle, yeah, and obviously he's over here with Richard Hannon now, so it suits him to have him, and he's a good booking for them. He's a very capable jockey, as you know, David, but I just don't think he's going to be in the same league as his stable companion. And if they were drawn beside each other, one would be, I'd say he'd be more 20 to 1 chance than a 10 to 1 chance.
That's a really interesting point, isn't it? If Chief Little Hawk had the draw of Tactical, would we be looking at a really short price favourite?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt
He'd
about
be a 3 to 1 or 5 to 2 if he was drawn there.
I think the draw is going to become a massive feature this week now, both in terms of how the punters perceive it and, most importantly, how the jockeys perceive it. And we go back to it, and I've said it before, and I don't want to sound like a stuck record, but it is important. And all the good judges tend to say it. The draw bias comes because the jockeys create it. Yeah. Against that, I do, and I've always believed Tom Siegel and Kills and everyone else who says there's no draw bias at Ascot. But it does just feel like you do need to be middle to high.
You just get these years, don't you, where they tend to, exactly like, I guess the weather's had a bit to do with it. I wonder whether this might just be the race with the 2-year-olds. They're not quite so professional, are they? The babies, if you like. Let's hope that the loading process goes well as well. Like you said, the Stallhunters have had a blinding week so far. This is their first big test. I think we can say that. And I wonder, just with the Wesward horses, high to middle, you usually associate them as being your top of your triangle early doors. Certainly if I was Mighty Gurkha and Holly Doyle, I'd be wary of them early. It would just be fascinating to see what Get It, which is Clive Cox's horse with Adam Kirby on, a jockey that's got a great record at the straight track on 2-year-olds. From stall 1 and stall 2, Ryan Moore, Chief Little Hawk, Don't forget, Get It was ahead of Tactical at Newmarket, and because one's in stall 20, Tactical, and one's in stall 1, Get It, the price discrepancy is it's bordering on absolute insult, isn't it? It's 20 to 1 for Get It and a 7 to 2 shot for Andrew Balding's Tactical.
I also think, given how peculiar this race is, and let's face it, I've literally never seen a horse race in my life where 20 runners go to post. All of them have had exactly one run. None of them has a duck egg to its name. I mean, there's never been anything like this, right? Is it possible that the market has got a little bit beguiled, A, by the draw, but B, by the big stables, and that there could be something lurking at a massive, massive price? And to that end, I've thrown a couple of darts at 2 horses at really, really big prices. One is Victory Heights for James Tate. One okay at Newcastle, not spectacular, but the RPR guys haven't got him far off, so that's quite interesting. And then Philip Makin and Mukher. Another one who I just thought there was enough in that debut victory to entitle him not to be at the kind of enormous price he is.
Yeah, Mukher is interesting, Bruce, because a 20 to 1 shot on debut for Philip Making, still a young trainer making his ways by Maymas. You remember Richard Hannon's decent too. They're expecting him to have a great first season. He held off a horse that day of Carl Burke's. I think they think a great deal of it. It's called Significantly. It was just a bit green, that, and it ran on really strongly. Tom Dascombe's third. I think that was a good race, actually. And he was really professional. It was Paul Morenan's first winner back, I remember, after resumption. Paul Morenan comes down to take the ride in 10. 50 to 1, that is very interesting indeed.
Yeah, 75 on Betfair. Have you got anything down the bottom, chaps, that you think might outrun
I thought
its
10th
price?
Century was of some interest with the high draw for Michael Bell, a horse he's got going later in the week. Is it Lord Lear or something like that? Lord of Lear, I can't remember what it is. Broke the track record at Yarmouth. Michael Bell's got some pretty speedy 2-year-olds.
Something Lear, isn't
Something
it?
Lear. Yeah. Excuse me for not being able to pick that out at the moment, but I thought under Sylvester de Souza 100 to 1 was too big for him. He only made his debut 6 days ago. He tried to make all that day and got collared. It comes way too soon, doesn't it? And it's hard to see him actually winning it. But we're talking about the place market on Betfair and how many places you got. How many places have we got for this, Barry, on the market?
You can have your standard 3, or you can go down to 2, or you can go up to 4.
Okay, so 4 places. Is that how you've backed Mooka, Bruce?
I backed him win and 4 places.
Okay,
I've backed them both in that way.
So look, so many ways to go about this, and Bruce is right. I mean, you'd see this at the July course, maybe, wouldn't you? One race, an informative 2-year-old race. Usually by now, Mark Johnson's had something that's run 4 times. Card Sharp springs to mind, something like that, or I don't know. Or, I mean, Pinatubo, you remember he won the Woodcote last year, came to the Chesham. It's a Chesham tomorrow, by the way. It's moved from itself.
Yeah.
It is.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Yeah, Battleground, and that's an interesting horse, isn't he, Barry, for Ballydoyle, because it's a race that they absolutely love to get the winner of. Interestingly, their names at the moment seem to be rather military, don't they? Hyde Park Barrett's in this race, Chief Little Hawk, and Battleground running tomorrow. But I think that are we going to see some shocks in the 2-year-old races? It is an interesting angle.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. And again, the one thing I would say with the 2-year-old races at Ascot this year, just you don't need to get heavily involved. You know, you really don't.
Unlike DJ.
Well, yeah, I mean, if DJ's got a clue here, that's absolutely fine. And, you know, and good luck to him. And he'll probably be proved right. But, you know, if you come into these and you're thinking, hang on a second, I'm not particularly comfortable with this, there's normally a little bit more form to work with, then don't have a bet or just have a small bet. You don't have to go smashing away in every race. You
could almost treat this, if you are punting that way, as a bit like the Britannia, I'm sure people did yesterday's being the first race in a meeting, couldn't you? Learn about these 2-year-olds, see what they're going to do. Just feel your way a little bit with it, absolutely. A nod to responsible gambling there from Bruce, quite rightly so. A last look at the market, guys, can we, as they start to go in?
Yeah, at the moment, they're vying for favouritism now. Tactical and Chief Little Hawk, there's only a couple of ticks between them, 4.9, 5.2, 4.9 Tactical, 5.2 Chief Little Hawk, 13-2 to Gurkha at 6.8, 9.8 Sheriff Bianco, and the other Wesley Ward runner is a 14-1 chance, Sunshine City, but just looks like maybe Tactical's going to go off favourite, but it's very tight at the top of the market.
Yeah, just to back you up on your Bruce there, your point there, Bruce. Thanks for that, Barry. I think this is probably my smallest stake of the week so far. I've just had a little bit on Sunshine City. Had Tactical, having watched it back and looked at the speed finger angle, I probably would have had a little bit on him having seen the draw, but not at 7-2 for me. So I'm happy to sit it out. And good luck to James Doyle bidding for a double. How are they loading, Bruce? I know this is your worst part of the day, isn't it? Having to watch them go in. But
well, it's interesting to see which ones play up and which ones don't, obviously. And you know, you just got to admire the skill of these stalls handlers every single time. If there's one job in racing I would not fancy, is that. I mean, you know, you're going to work, and the best thing that can happen to you is not to get kicked by a horse, isn't it?
Punters give them a lot of stick as well,
do
don't
they?
Yeah,
do they really?
they
I'm
do.
not sure they do.
I think
most people are fairly. They probably are in your local betting shop because you live in such a rough area, Dave.
Absolutely.
Round my way, they're quite respectful.
Leafy Buckinghamshire Village, terrifying place. No, you're quite right. Listen, I know some big punters that moan at me a lot about not
but
so
why?
much
What's
well, it's just like what is the problem? I think they don't like the way that the stewards line them up. They don't get how you can take a ticket. They don't know who's taken a ticket beforehand. Trainers get to take a ticket. Pinatubo being the classic point. Charlie Appleby came out, I think the loading process is maybe there's still some grey areas there. I think why has my horse been in for 10 minutes?
Well, look, I mean that is obviously a problem. You know, that is a bugbear. But I mean, you know, again, if you're a serious punter and you think a horse has lost its chance by being in stalls for too long, then oppose it. Make a note. Anyway, they're off, and I'm doing this race, aren't I? You're doing the last. Right, it's the Windsor Castle Stakes, 20 runners, and Chief Little Hawk breaks well from stall 2. It's a pretty level break. Down the near side, we've got the Queen's horse, Tactical, who is going quite well. But Sheriff Bianco, one of the Wesley Ward horses, surprise, is cutting out the early running. Tantastic is right up there. They're splitting into 2 groups. One of the groups is a middles group, and the other one is come down the stand side. So they may well actually amalgamate. But meanwhile, it looks like it's fast start for Godolphin that's made a fast start. It's actually Mukare in those 2 colours with the noseband. So Mukare is going well and being chased by Mighty Gurkha. But it looks like Mukare is going really well here. Have I got the right one here? Because I've backed this thing at 100-1. Tactical is coming down the near side, has got a great run. On the far side, Get It for Clive Cox. But Mukare is still winning. I've backed this bloody thing at 100-1. Go on, Mukare.
Come on,
Mukare. Go on, Mukare. Tactical's going to come and do him. Tactical's going to come and do him.
Come on, Mukare. He's going to finish second. Tactical for the Queen. Barry's hat. Let's see it. Is it going to go flying? Taken away from Bruce. The camera. He's absolutely on the floor. Barry Orr, the Queen has won a race. Has your hat gone flying off? Absolutely. Wow, Bruce.
I don't have to wear that for the rest of the week.
You are, Bruce. My goodness gracious me. A little bit like Pogo and me on a 33-1 shot in the Hunt Cup. Nod your cap quickly to Dave Jennings. He waxed lyrical. He went on and on and on, but he got it right. The draw was everything for that horse, I would say. Look it back. Those drawn low at halfway looked like they had absolutely no chance. Boys, I think we've got to say stand side. Did he quite maybe third just in the end, Bruce? Because something was absolutely flying up there. In the
it was Yazaman.
Yazaman, who's come from way, way off the base. I'll be honest with you guys, I know your eyes were very much concentrated on Mukare. Great shout, by the way. Philip Macon's got one there, hasn't he? But all the way throughout that race, in the right place and going well. It was just a case of what he found, and he's bred to stay quite well. This horse, not surprisingly, on the dam side of the Queen, but being a Queen horse, but he's just toughed it out, hasn't he? But again, guys, 20 of 18 has won the race,
and full credit to David Jennings there. You bastard.
He's absolutely knocked
it
it out of
a
the
great
park.
shout, that. And I tell you what, Victory Heights, my other one, came steaming through towards the end. That's run an absolute belter. Not particularly great Sheaf Little Hawk, but I think this draw is really, really, it is brutal.
It's crucial, isn't it? Yeah. Bruce, your horse traded at a low of 1.5, 2-1 on. Who cares?
Okay, yeah.
That makes me feel worse.
It was, yeah, it does. It absolutely does. The highs and lows. You're seeing it here on Racing Post Live. Let us know what you made of that goal, wasn't it? Wasn't it entertaining is the word I shall go for. But we're just looking at the replay on the screen. We can see Chief Little Hawk, Barry, he made it, didn't he, at Navan? Two things, he couldn't get his own way, which I wonder whether that might have had something to do with it, but it stank of a horse that was maybe turning out a bit too quick.
No, I thought there seemed to be plenty of pace on his side when they split into the two groups, but the winner's got a soul up the inside. He's probably just not good enough over the 5 furlongs. They didn't hang around. They went a fair clip all the way. It'd be interesting to see the times.
Yeah.
And when you've Wesley Ward runners in there, they've only one way of running, and that's barrel out in front.
They were disappointing, yeah. They were disappointing. I mean, they just looked a little bit pacey.
Look down the near side with the white face. That's that Victory Heights, the other long shot I've put up. That's run on really, really well. Get It for Clive Cox is up there. The Mighty Gurkha. He's run a valiant race, but just not quite good enough. I think that's finished 5th.
He looked like he was coming at one point. Going back to Chief Little Hawk, just watching him again, he doesn't go away, actually. I was expecting him to fall in a hole. He has confirmed that form with Hyde Park Barrett, so I guess that the analysts will be pointing to that. If anything, he looks sort of like a horse that probably wanted a little bit further. So the boys at Ballydoyle still waiting for that Air Force Blue win another week, but we may get it. It was a level break, wasn't it? They went really hard there, and I thought, right, this could be the race that dispels the draw impact. But again, it's just, I mean, there's no coincidence here that a horse has run on the rail and won. I think the horse that I backed, Pogo, as well, if I'm being honest about it, I think he finished so well on third because he had the rail. If I was sitting in the analysis department of old now, with like Stefan Edwards, Ron Wood and that lot, we'd all be screaming about the rail.
You'd be down in the pub.
We probably would be over the road in Old Compton where we were.
Going back to that ride there, but the Doylers, first, his key thing early on is not to get blocked on the rail. It's to grab the rail, isn't it?
Yeah.
But without expending too much energy, and he's done that absolutely perfectly. And when the gaps open up, he's on we're not far short of a golden highway now, and he's just come hurtling through, picked it up with 100 yards to go. And he's gone away and he's won by a length. It's a bloody good run by that thing. Well, it's actually third in then because he's just got nutted on the line. But it travelled beautifully, Mouquet. And, he's given his connections a fantastic day, hasn't he?
He had the winner off the bridle, absolutely. So you'd be looking at the Molecombe for him, Mouquet, wouldn't you? It's really fast, 5 furlongs. That's where you're going to get your money.
Sorry, Dave, I'm still in the looking back stage, mate. I'm still mourning. Don't
trying
start
to get
asking
him
me about
over
what's going to
this.
happen next, my friend.
It's not easy. It's not easy. Well, thankfully, I'm calling the last race. So you hopefully remind us of your selection in that. Come on, this is the one that's going to get you back, Bruce. I know it is.
Well, no, I did have a bit at 10 for a first 4 finish as well. So it's not all bad news. It's not all bad news. I've gone for Fujairah Prince in the race. Of course,
really well fancied by the boys at My Racing as well. We'll get to the last race. I just want to pick some bones out of that as well. The horse, was it Yazaman for William Aggis, who somehow went off at around about 20-1. He's run a blinder, isn't he? Second time blinkers, no problems there. Good run for Haggis. Haggis 2-year-olds are in really, really good form. And I've got to go back to Victory Heights. He was the big eye catcher for me. He was drawn 4. He's made PJ McDonald took his medicine, came near side, and he's steamed up that rail. James Tate's definitely got a runner there. I think again, this is all going forward now for your Goodwoods, your Newmarket meetings, your Yorks going on. We're learning as we go. The first 2-year-old race has ended with a royal runner as well. So, Your Majesty, congratulations.
Yeah, the Queen just touched off for a 10-1 double, lads.
You're only supposed to take your hat off. You're only supposed to take your hat off briefly, Barry.
No, the hat's gone.
Hats off is like a sort of.
Once the Queen had a winner, I was allowed to take the hat off. Full stop.
It's
Okay.
I'm in my gaff here. Like I don't have to wear it at all. Surely.
You can shut the windows now, can't you? And the door. It's all.
He said to us, "Imagine if we could see the other side of the camera. It looks like a lovely study, doesn't it? It's probably got, all his memorabilia and his awards up there and all that sort of stuff. But he's
Sitting in a bucket of cold water. That's for
You
sure.
must have won awards over the years, haven't you? Probably. You must have a few. You must have a couple of things like that. You've been in the game long. Well, but actually about the same time as me, 2003, wasn't it, Barry?
Just on the winner, guys, would you expect? I mean, because we were saying beforehand, it's not really the Queen and Andrew Balding. It's not really connections that you'd expect to go hunting a race like the Windsor Castle. So could this actually be a really, like for instance with Pinatubo last year? They started him off earlier than they should have done because he did so little work at home. They just didn't realise how good he was. So they thought, well, we'll stick him in this little race at Wolverhampton. With this horse here, could it be that he's actually the horse that will get better, unlike probably most Windsor Castle winners, or has Balding just suddenly identified him as a horse that, hang on a sec, this thing's as precocious as hell, we need to get him out there as quick as we can?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. The Dam was a 6 furlong listed place 2-year-old winner. Just looking down, RPR of 98, so smart enough. But he's by Toronado, who was proper miler for the Hannahs, and her sire is Macfie, who was obviously a Guineas winner as well. And that was slightly putting me off about the 5 furlongs, albeit stiff. I guess he looked a little bit vulnerable, half a furlong out, and then got strong again at the line. Very possibly. Be very, very interesting to see. Where did Pinatubo go after winning the Chesham? That was such an interesting point, isn't it? Was it probably in Ireland or somewhere like that? I can't remember where he went, but it was. They will now look for a 6th furlong, I think, and if he sees that out strongly, you could be looking at. Is it too quick to say Dewhurst? I don't know. A lot of cynics out there will say it's the Windsor Castle Stakes, Dave. Soldier's Call, probably the best winner that I can remember for a little while. Washington, D.C., I suppose. They don't go on to be top-notchers, do they? But this year, things could just be different because they've had to rush to get there. They just want 2-year-old winners on the week.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. We move on to our last one now.
We do indeed, and it's a new race, the Mile 6 Copper Horse Handicap. Class 2 handicap. It's going to be a wide open market. I'm expecting this. There's been one horse that's been tipped all over the place, but we will get to that. Don't forget you're watching here on Racing Post live at the Betfair Exchange. Myself, Dave Orton, Bruce Millington, just about off the floor after that very narrow 100 to 1 shot that he nearly got over the line there. And Barry Orr still with us. The hat has come off, Barry. Can you give us a market update for the finale on day 2?
I certainly can. For the finale, the Mile 6 Copper Horse. Great name for a race. 5.3 now, Ranch Hand. Really well supported all day for previous race winning trainer, Andrew Balding. Had been as big as 11 on the Betfair Exchange and halved in price now, 5.5. Fujera Prince is currently 5.1. Collide 7.2. All Right Sunshine 10. Bruce, I want to get my action done early here. I'm laying Ranch Hand and I'm laying it in the place market.
Okay.
I'm laying it 4 places.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm laying it at 4 places. He's 10 to 9 on. He's 1.94. I don't mind going to 1. He's 1.95, 1.97.
What should we do? Go
Around that
1.95?
Go 1.97 and just try to mop up what's there. I'm happy enough
How much?
to lay it. Want to take 50 quid of the backer's stake now. It mightn't all be done in one go. There might be about 28 quid of it done or 30 quid of it done at 1.97 and 1.95 between them.
All done.
We're all done, are we? Excellent.
No, sorry, hang on a sec. No, we're not quite all done. No, hang on a sec, what's happened here? I've got 5 are done there. No, I've got 44 quid to do and he's out to evens. But I'm at the front of the queue, so I reckon we'll be all right.
Okay. That'll be done. I'm confident that'll be done. I just think he's worth taking. I'm very disappointed in Cesarovic when he raced off 99. He started last season off 85. He went up a stone as he progressed. I just think he's worth taking a chance with today, especially in the place market. He'll either win or I don't think he'll be mapped.
Yeah, he's done there now, Barry. He's back to 1.91, actually.
I'm sensing excitement about this, Barry. You got that little glint in your eye there. I could see that. You think you're onto something here.
And the way he said, we need to get this done early.
Yes,
Bruce, didn't
exactly.
Yeah. The gloves are off and the hat's off as well. So we're all systems go here for the finale.
The hats is off. And look, Ranch Hand, let's concentrate on him for a minute. All went wrong for him in the Cesarowicz, you'll remember, last year. But
why? They couldn't. There was no explanation as to the disappointing run. And they still, nothing's came to light since. Maybe it's just a handicapper had caught up with him. He'd had a long season, but
a long season, I think you'd give him that, wouldn't you? And obviously, apparently he's going well at home and Balding. It's such a fantastic start to the racing resumption. Just had the winner there. Also, price-wise, Tom Segal put 2 up. Ranchan was one of them. He's tipped all over the place, Ranchan, and Paul Keeley has gone in with Ranchan as well. In fact, I think this is Paul Keeley's banker of the day I saw on the app earlier on. I think a lot of that has got to do with the fact that he beat a horse called Trushan, who we remember calling home at the Guineas meeting here on Racing Post Live. Ran okay, Alan King's horse, at the Guineas meeting today. He's basically now £18 higher than when this horse company beat him. But I think it's a lot of soft ground form, and they must have based this on the fact the rain would certainly arrive now. That's another story, isn't it? The rain never came.
No, it absolutely didn't. But again, though, don't start thinking that for the rest of the week you're going to be back in the good ground horses, because there is a lot of rain in the forecast. But it's erratic and they can't really pinpoint it, so we need to be very careful with that. Going back to Ranch, and I share your reservations coming out that says it might be that it was one too many at the end of the season, but it just doesn't really do it for me. He's a bit short. Again, you've got it easy, haven't you? You're commenting on this race, and he's carrying those beautiful, iconic Mill Reef colours.
I'm going to be able to pick them out. I'm going to be able to pick them out. There's not a lot of blue in this, actually. There's a couple.
No, exactly. I'm looking at this. Every other race has just been an absolute sea of blue. And this, you've got the most beautifully contrasting colours. You know those ties that absolute racing nuts wear to the races, and they've got all silks on them. Do you own one, Barry?
Sorry?
Do you own... Pay attention. Stay with us.
Again,
you know those ties people wear that have got loads of racing silks on them? Have you got one of them?
No, I don't. No. I've only Hermes. My wife buys me a Hermes tie every birthday and every Christmas, so that's all I wear.
A man of distinction.
Wow.
But what I'm saying here is that you could pick these colours and put them on a tie, because there's such a lovely variety. So it's going to be so... You can't go wrong with this, can you? 1.6 miles.
I see what you're doing there. You're putting a little bit of pressure on at the same time. You're putting a little bit of pressure on at the same time. Yeah, you're right, 1.6 miles. I'm probably going to throw to you guys throughout this 3 times, or maybe 4. I tried to do the Ascot Stakes yesterday, and Barry had a lot of input in that, I think. Going back to the runners, I mean, Ranch Hand, who's going to go off outright favourite here? Because this leads me to your selection, Bruce, and the My Racing boys. They've both gone for Fujiwara Prince. He has been really well punted for this, hasn't he, I think?
Yeah, he's just about favourite now. Again, yet another selection where I don't feel like I've beaten the book or sussed one, but I just feel like I've got one that I'm comfortable with, fits the kind of profile of a varying horse older that he can get some out of. The only thing is, the more I think about it, the more I just sometimes wonder with these varying horses whether... I used to end up thinking that... Do you remember when we all feared Tony Martin?
Yeah.
And everything got massively punted, didn't
Leg
it?
spin
Everything
up,
was
etc.
short, and you were always fearful. And then I got to a point, I thought, hang on a sec, I don't fear Tony Martin horses anymore, but the market still does. And I just wonder whether we're reaching that point with the old Rog beasts.
They put them in, they're defensive, aren't they?
They're very defensively priced. But with this one, I think I'm on the most likely winner. I do like All Right Sunshine as a danger, but I think he's more of a horse to back at decent prices on the places.
Interesting. I like All Right Sunshine. Let's go back to Fujiwara Prince. He's got a first-time out record, a very envious one at that. I think the last 2 years he's won first time out. But as someone mentioned, it might be Barry earlier on, wasn't it? He's a 6-year-old and he's won only 6 times. He does shape as though this trip might suit, and he could have run over mile 4 this week. So maybe they're coming for a bit more of the top of the ground. Perhaps that's what they're after. But he has one on good stuff. He's going to be absolutely fine. He was 3rd at this meeting, of course, last year.
And he goes well first time.
And he goes well first time. So that's the angle there. So drawn 16, I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem for him. Let's concentrate on All Right Sunshine now then for Keith Dalglish, bidding to become just the 2nd Scottish trainer to train a Scottish trained horse since the Victorian times. We were talking about this off air right at the start and mentioned it, didn't we? I remember we at a Racing Post ran a big story about this last year when Keith had What's the Story really fancied for the Hunt Cup. He had a really big team last year, didn't quite come off. And Linda Perrott was the only one since Victoria times. I'm not sounding to, I'm not being sort of turning my nose up at that at all, but it is a surprise that only one, and it was Linda Perrott, a trainer that's kind of gone a bit quieter over recent years. I think it was called Big Story in 2008. Correct me if I'm wrong out there, but it's a bit of a hoodoo, that, isn't it? This chap's got a massive chance to put that right.
Yeah, the neg on him, because I think that run last time at Haydock was really good. I think the form, the quality of that field is, comparable to this and puts him bang in there. The only thing is, Ascot, I don't think you want to get too far back. I just think it's one of the hardest courses. You come off that bend, okay, on the round course, you come off that bend and you haven't got, and it's a sharp turn and you have not got long. Yeah. You've got to come off that bend with momentum, and you've got to, particularly if they haven't gone a strong pace, it's so hard to make up ground from the back there. And that's the concern with this one. I just worry that he's going to take a little too long to get going, and I could see him sort of running on and being like a gallant fourth.
Let's hope that they have talked about this and that they do try and run him a bit more promptly. Do you remember, it was Haydock last year? I'm going to look at his run when he was second. It's the defeat that he's got. He's a very prolific horse. 12 starts, 7 wins. What a horse he's been for them. It was at Haydock and he got beaten by Time to Study. It was the old Borough Cup. And he was smashed in the betting, 5-2. Time to Study for Ian Williams. Outstayed. They thought they got there too soon. He came there cruising. We were all eyeing. Danny Tudhope did everything right, and he veered right over to the runner, and he basically threw it away. They hold on to him and hold on to him. So hopefully he's going to be one of these horses, maybe a little bit like Lord North we thought earlier on. What a sensational win of the Princess Wales Stakes he is. That I'd like to just see him in midfield this time rather than out the back. I think if he's in midfield early, we're going to be on a runner.
Yeah, it depends on the pace, but I mean, you can't see a 16 run a mile and 6 being run at a crawl, can you?
You would hope not, would you? Absolutely. But I do take your point. Very good horses in handicaps on the round course at Ascot get beat. Cross Counter, of course, as we mentioned earlier in the year. How on earth did he get beat all those years ago? Turned into be a Group 1 horse. Let's see what David Jennings, bidding for a quickfire double, thinks about the finale.
Yeah, the final race on day 2, a wide open staying handicap. My pin has landed on Almania for David Simcock, whose team are out of form at the minute, which is a little bit worrying. But I just think with Almania, he looks like he's going to develop into quite a good 4-year-old. He's been gelded since he left Sir Michael Stout. He had some cracking runs last year, even against the likes of Hamish when he's traded quite short and running. I think he has the potential to be a really good staying handicapper. And if David Simcox can just finally start hitting a bit of form, I think he's still well handicapped off 97. I think the race will be run to suit, and I think he'll creep into it from the back of the field. I think he'll run well. I think he's a good horse, and I think he's well handicapped. So it's Almania for me in the finale.
Jim Crowley switching to David Simcock, the horses as well. He's been a bit of a monkey. Look, we're talking about cliff horses. Dark Vision went and won the Hunt Cup. I've jumped off this cliff a little while ago. Any love in the market, Barry, for Almania with DJ's hordes of supporters getting on?
Not really. Around a 16 to 1 chance at the moment. I suppose they need time to digest what he's just said. I'm sure that price will collapse in the next couple of minutes. But Ranch Hand, Fujiara Prince, heading the market at the moment at 92 ahead of Ranch Hand. Like you say, there's going to be loads of pace in this. It's definitely not going to be running at Dordle. I think we like Ernesto with Ben Curtis. He'll definitely be close up to it. Hotchfield for Joe Fanning. He'll want to get off in front as well. You have the Max We Can will be up there with it. Collide is another one that doesn't mind him. Fujiara Prince is one that could make it as well. So there's going to be stacks of pace here. Could be ran to suit your horse. The only thing, Keith Dalglish, I think he's only had one winner, has he, since racing resumed?
Let me just check that.
Now, the horses haven't been running bad, but, he's only had one winner out of maybe over 20 runners.
Actually.
30 runners.
Red Bond ran well for him, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah. Red Bond ran okay. So, I mean, I think we've got to remember as well that there's been so few races and it's so competitive. Everyone's going to want to give their really patient owners who've been fantastic and waited a chance to win a race, and so I suppose it is just ultra competitive, isn't it? He's had one win, 5 places from 26 runners. It's not ultra encouraging. I mean, going back to stable form as well, I think the one thing DJ would be concerned about with Almania is that David Simcock's horses are looking like they mostly need a run. So
big time.
That'll be a problem there.
Stable form is so important, isn't it? Like when you look at Ranch Hand, like obviously Andrew Balding has it, who started this season absolutely on fire. Like if it wasn't an Andrew Balding horse, I don't think it'd be the price he is.
No, I think that's absolutely right. But what I'm saying is that sometimes there's a difference between not having had loads of winners and being out of form, I think. And I just think with Dalglish, he's probably not, if you look at his level stakes profit, it might, it might be that, some horses, some stables rather, they're having loads of horses turned over at short prices, so that's a problem. I don't necessarily think that would be the case with Dalglish. I will have a look in a second, but, they're certainly not flying.
If they've had one winner, it means it's not all doom and gloom, is it?
Exactly.
Yeah,
and they're having placed horses as well.
There's nothing sinister behind it.
Exactly. He's run well enough last time. You can't believe that all of a sudden since then he's caught a bug and he's going to run terribly today, you know?
Absolutely. And we shouldn't be talking about bugs right now, should we, with all the weather we've had. A couple of other horses.
Bugs in general.
Well, quite right. Well,
exactly. Yeah.
Good point. You forget about it, don't you, when you're in the studio? But there is still a global pandemic going on out there, and we're delighted to be racing here at Royal Ascot. What an absolute pleasure it is. Day 2, loads of stories coming out of it again. I still think the postscript of a couple of Ballydoyle horses are going to be right on the punters' lips. Really, Collide. Talking about Ballydoyle, Ryan Moore takes the ride for Hugo Palmer. I did a stable tour. Actually, I did a stable tour for the weekender just before racing was locked down with Hugo Palmer. It never made it, but because it was for the weekend, and they just we've got to stop everything, guys. Anyway, so I got lots of info. I basically spent an hour on the phone with Hugo. He's a delight to work with, in the Hugo Palmer. It gives you so much information. Tells you about horses that you've not picked out from looking at what he's run and things like this. And near the top of his pile for this year was this chap, and it did win very readily on his return. Land of Oz didn't do the form much harm. He didn't really boost it in the Ascot Stakes yesterday. But this is a horse I know that they definitely think he's a group horse. He's had breathing issues. I seem to remember what Hugo said, but they think they've got him absolutely right. He looked like he was going to go off favourite Bruce. He's been a little bit easy.
Yes, he is. Did he mention this particular race?
He didn't actually.
Well, it didn't exist then, probably, did it?
Well, it probably didn't. No, quite right. No, it didn't. It would have been in March, wouldn't it? So no, he didn't.
They would have needed some foresight. So I think there's going to be a global pandemic. They're going to invent a 1 mile 6 handicap on the last day on the Wednesday. So we're going to go for that. A
mini Ebor. Yeah, quite right. Yeah, so that's basically exactly what it is. But I know that he does think the absolute world of this, and had the breathing been a little bit better earlier in his career. He blamed himself a little bit for that, actually, Hugo, but he has got him absolutely right. And he's bouncing off of when he's drawn in 2. Celino is another one we should mention. He's holding his price okay. Oisin Murphy got the first winner of the day. Is bidding for a double for James Fanshawe. A long time since James tasted Royal Ascot success. We think about the Tin Man. It has been done. It's Soviet song, all that sort of thing. And Celino was very progressive last year, winning its last 2. Is this his first run for Qatar? I'm assuming it is. Yes, it is. This was bought off Dr. Catherine Wills. So Oisin Murphy's got the ride for this. And James Fanshawe has had the odd winner or 2 since racing came back.
That's an interesting trade as well, isn't it? Why would they have bought that?
It's got to be, again, you're looking with a 97 rated horse that's going to stay. They're all looking towards.
Going to go down under.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You'd think that, wouldn't you?
He's gelding as well, isn't he?
Yeah. So is this a Melbourne Cup horse? Absolutely. Great shout, Bruce. Floating Artist, just below that, 12-1. Richard Hannon. Pat Dobbs getting a big ride at the Royal Meeting. Richard Hannon off the mark yesterday. You said there'd been a gamble on this, Barry.
On which one?
Floating Artist.
Floating Artist, did I?
You did. You said there'd been money for this earlier. I'm sure you did when we were talking about it. I'm sure you did. Well, I shall go there.
He's 14.5 at the moment.
The hat's gone off your head, man. You've absolutely lost the plot.
He's been matched at a high of, for about 20 for about 83 quid. Bigger sums than that for smaller money. 25 for 16 quid. 22 for 56 quid.
I could have been sure you said it.
Anyway. You wouldn't be speaking out of turn to say there had been money for him, but there's been money for a lot of horses in the race. Like, we're still a couple of minutes of close time, and we're over £1 million matched in. You know, what is a very difficult closing handicap.
I think there's no doubt now that Fujera Prince will go off favourite. 5.1. Ranch Hand's out to 7. Lucky we got matched when we did, Barry. Well done for going in early. You foresaw that. Collide is 7.4, so actually vying for second favouritism. All right, Sunshine holding his own nicely at 10.5. Celino 11.5, and it is 15 and upwards. The rest, I think, having bigged up Ascot for their punctuality early on, I think they're finally just beginning to feel the pace a little bit, because there's 17 seconds to go until we start, and there's still horses coming out onto the course. Is it worth having a quick appetite wetter for tomorrow, do you think?
Absolutely.
Because we're going to be off air not soon after this. And I must say, I said to Keels in a text, I said, how do you feel about today? What are your confidence levels like? He said, it's all about tomorrow, so meaning Thursday. So the Thursday, day 3, is the one where Keels can see a lot of interest. And it's funny because my eye is drawn to the last 2 races on the card,
right,
which you wouldn't normally. Now, the Britannia last year, the feature of that, of course, was that Frankie was going for his 6th straight win, and he was going to literally banker up the bookmakers. So I can't remember.
Biometric, wasn't it?
Biometric went off at something like 4s on or something. Well, not quite sure. But there's massive confidence for Finest Sound here, Simon and Ed Crisford. And then in the last, which is the Sandringham, which is another handicap, there is absolutely huge confidence in John Gosden's African Dream. So the meeting is going to end with two really, really, really hot favourites. And before that, there's loads of great stuff as well, isn't there? So it's obviously Stradivarius.
Oh, God, absolutely. The Gold Cup tomorrow, perhaps still the highlight of that in the entire meeting for some, probably me incled, even though they've division.
Is it? Is it the highlight? It just isn't for me at all.
Yates was just magnificent. Fame and Glory. I've had a lot of success in it, but I just love, Stradivarius. I've absolutely loved to watch it. Going back to those two horses that you mentioned, they're two real hot pots tomorrow. African Dream, she ran in the group race, didn't she, or the listed race? And on that form, she's absolutely chucked in. The handicapper has not had a chance to react to it. In fact, it was a novice race, but she came up against a horse of variance called Stylistic, who's rated 106. She went into that rated 80, and she got bumped at the start, and she finished well clear of a pretty decent horse of Andrew Balding's. Now, the handicapper was put up to a mark of 96. She runs off 80 tomorrow in the Sandringham. According to the handicapper, she got £16 in hands. Going back to Finest Sound, is it? Finest Sound. I did his run at, was it Nottingham? No, it wasn't Nottingham. Where could it be? He won.
Haydock, was it?
It was Haydock, where I covered that. He slammed a field. First winner for Simon and Ed Crisford as a partnership. And again, way ahead of the handicapper. So these were two horses that the anti-post market did react to, especially African Dream.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. That and Barry, I mean, the good news for punters with the Gold Cup is there's the dead 8 in there at the moment. So it's got the kind of look of an each way classic, hasn't it? With obviously Stradivarius very, very hot, and then Cross Counter shaping like one of those each way bets to nothing where you have it and it returns nothing. So
Orton the race last year. Yeah, Naif Road, the Cigaro winner, the form of the Cigaro getting put to the test here. You have Technician in there. Any rain for him would be appreciated. Yeah, it's a decent race without the favourite, all right. With the favourite, looks like he's going to go off very short. He's currently, I think, around 4-7. Stradivarius, and probably deservingly so. I thought that was a nice run behind Gayat in the Coronation Cup, and just should leave him spot on for this. Although some people are saying, like, why did he have to run him there? Did he feel he needed to get a run into him ahead of the Gold Cup? But obviously he was going to second guess John Gosden,
didn't they?
That's a real shame that Kew Gardens doesn't run, isn't it?
Just
That's
from
a
a
real
betting
point.
point,
That would have been a fascinating race. And it's funny because Tom Siegel actually tipped Kew Gardens at 7-2, 4-1, I think.
Yeah.
And it came out the next day. I mean, that's just absolutely rotten luck. I would have been fascinated to see how the market would have taken shape if Kew Gardens had carried on, had still been in the field, because that just looked too lopsided, basically.
It was absolutely. He was going to run a big race, wasn't he? So tomorrow I can also pass on Andrew Balding's Nap of the Week runs tomorrow as well, called Fox Tallet is in the Wolverton Stakes, and it's having some season. I can tell you there is ridiculous confidence about that in the second race tomorrow. They're slightly worried about a deluge, so keep your weather watching out. But yeah, sizzling day tomorrow. Yeah.
Talking of ridiculous confidence, Fujairah Prince is down to 4.2 now, absolutely bossing this market, 4.1. And as a consequence, everything else is on the drift. Ranch Hand out to 8, Collide out to 7.8. Solino very solid down the bottom for Oisin Murphy at 10. And All Right Sunshine out to 12.5. So this is a proper market move, Barry, this, isn't it?
Yeah, there's absolutely stacks of money for it. Interestingly, the horse that we laid at 1.95, Ranch Hand in the 4 places, we could back him back now at 11-8 against 2.32. But I'm not going to do that now, but some people would nick a profit there, but I'm happy enough just to ride it out.
Do you ever do that, Barry? Because, there's the money sitting there waiting for you to pick it up and put it in your pocket. But you've had the bet, presumably not because you can see it drifting and you want it and you're trading. You're doing it because you think the horse is too short and you want the value. I mean, I think the worst saying in betting is you never go skint taking a profit. It's absolute nonsense, that. It really is a ludicrous...
It's not necessarily true, because your profit sometimes, obviously, you can eat into your profit consistently what should be a decent-sized profit. So if you cash out, say, something for 40 quid, and if you let it run, you'd win 120. If you do that consistently over time, you're not maximising your opportunity to profit.
They are going in, guys. Thanks for that, Barry. Wrap up there. We are the final race here on Race Day Live. I'm going to take over comms duties from Bruce, and it's a mile 6, a new race then. The Copper Horse Handicap. Bruce, you called it absolutely at the start of the day. Your horse, Fujiwara Prince, now being backed right into favouritism.
Absolutely, yeah. He's 4.3, still really solid. Ranch Hand's come back in a bit, 6.6. That's going to be second favourite. That and Collide are actually joint second favourites on the show, but on the exchange, Collide is bigger at 8. Ranch Hand 6.6, Celino 10, and All Right Sunshine 12. I'll keep talking for a little longer just while Dave learns the colours. Was there any outsider, Barry, that you thought could outrun their price?
Oh, not really, Bruce. I thought there were a moderate lot outside of the top couple in the market. Maybe the Max We Can with James Doyle in the plate. Thought he could possibly, for Mark Johnson, I thought he could run well. He's had his seasonal bow already and he should improve significantly for that, but he's a 20-1 chance.
Yeah, and obviously Doyle would be looking to do what Jim Crowley did yesterday and ride a treble. It's been a great day for James Doyle fans. They're just beginning to go. And this lot shouldn't create too many problems. They're all seasoned enough campaigners, unlike the 2-year-olds. So they're going in fairly quickly. Let's switch for the final time with our thanks to our big race commentator. It's Dave Orton.
Thank you, Bruce. They're all going in, approaching the boxes. I would be terrible at doing an impression of any commentator.
Oh, who was that?
I don't have a clue. But my pick with Southern would be awful. Right, we're off and running for the finale then, and one that's absolutely missed it out the back. Dealer Dollar, another horse going for Simcock, because Almania is out the back as well, so he's being scrubbed along. Taking it up though, Bruce, is your chance. It's Fujiwara Prince looking desperate to get across from the outside draw there. Andrea Ozzini now eyeballing Hochfield, who's awash with sweat. Collides up there, floating artist. We said there was money for him before he's a course winner. He's in the box seat at the moment. Ranch Hand's got a nice position. Dubai Horizon for William Buick. Having a first ride, William for Saib Bin Sarur. Saib Bin Sarur had a rather quiet week so far.
And the market likes Fujiwara Prince's move there. 3.65 now, so solid favourite.
I'm pretty happy with where All Right Sunshine is. We mentioned we'd like to see him a little bit more prominent. They are alive to that, looking for the back markers. Amazing Red is out there. Almania still out there. Eddie Stone Rock, looking for him. He's got some good Ascot for him. He's in midfield. He's pulling for a little bit. But Barry, the market.
Yeah, Dealer Dollar out the back. Ranch Hand 13-2, 11-4 Fujiwara Prince. Collides come into around the 11-2 mark as well. Steady away, really. They're not going much of a gallop down the back straight. Yeah, Shalane in midfield, right upside. All Right Sunshine, absolutely pulling for her head. Celino, we mentioned that first run for Qatar's out the back under Oshie. Eddie Stone Rock now drifted back. Bruce, pace, how would you be playing it now? Are you happy with yours?
I think Hochfield's going to stay in front for a long, long way. I think he's a gritty old horse. He hasn't been running much lately, but he's got a bit of form in the back. He'll take some pegging back. I'd expect him to. Still, he's 18. But Fujiwara Prince, 3.95. Lobbing along nicely there. Collide is going well on the inside as well. And then you've got Floating Artist on the outside. So they're all playing their hand. I don't think there's anything that's particularly in the wrong position here. He says, as All Right Sunshine just gets a bit snatched up with a little midfield skirmish.
So here's this coming,
making a move.
Yes, this is Charlene. So expect the pace to warm up now, guys, because Sylvester de Souza not happy with it at all. He's going wide. He's taking the Willie Carson route almost. He's gone that wide. Here comes Fujiwara Prince. They're now getting going. Hochfield's just feeling the pinch a little bit. Ernesto, first run for Ian Williams. He's coming off the bridle, looking for some of the bigger players.
Ranch Horizon
trying to get into it. The Max We Can's there. All Right Sunshine, close enough, if good enough for me, Danny Tudhope. Collide's got a lovely sit as well. Call it, Bruce. Off the bend, who's going to win? Who's going to win?
Well, I mean, you've got to like this move by Shalene, haven't you?
Look at Almania really coming off the bend. So there are plenty of chances.
I'm going to go All Right Sunshine.
All Right Sunshine. I'd be very happy if that came. He's absolutely lobbing. He's going to need a run. Fujiwara Prince, will he see it out? He's still on the bridle.
Artist?
Here comes Almania. Will David Simcott's horse finally doing some good? A DJ is going to be absolutely screaming at the telly. All Right Sunshine's been mullered in the run. No chance whatsoever from there. Danny Tudhope's had a shocker.
Good night, everyone.
But Fujiwara Prince has gone. Here comes the Max We Can. This is going to be another favourite. This is going to be Gamble landed. Bruce Millington, one of your tips is going to finally land in the last. It looks like Ranch Hand's getting on for a place maybe. Almania's run really well, but this is absolutely all over. Big eye catcher in second, Celino. No chance with Fujiwara Prince.
Yeah, that was job done. I mean, that grey coat of his was always prominent and then took it up going around the bend. It was an absolute armchair ride by the very reliable, a jockey that keeps it simple, Andrea Atzane. He never complicates things. He's just a steady Eddie. I absolutely love him. And that was pretty easy. I guess, Barry, that was all over nice and early, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's no in-running story there. Betfair SP of 4.33, so really well punted. You know, as the race developed, Shailene, when took it up, turning into the straight, just had to get after yours just a little, but travelling so well, turning into the straight and the outside of him, Dubai Horizon, was set up for a lot of the finishers, but just at the 2 furlong marker, he pressed the button on Andrea Atzane did, and away Fujiara Prince went, and there was only going to be one winner from there. Bit of scrummaging in behind for places, Dave. I thought All Right Sunshine was going to run on nicely, but his run came to an end at the furlong marker. Thankfully, Ranch Hand beaten out of the 4 places. We win our 50 quid for the charity there. I'm running on well for second place. Like you said, the bottom horse of James Franshaw, Selena, with Ushing Murphy in the plate, but only one winner there. I tell you, I'm sure there's going to be ramifications in some of the big handicaps for the season as we progress with him.
Absolutely. Well, you've got the £1 million Ebor, haven't you? You got,
it's all about keeping sound with him, I think, isn't it? Just his 7th run. Just his 7th run today. First time out, he's got a mustard record, but he's obviously, a group horse in a proverbial handicap there, as we see. Some really interesting runs in behind. Selena, they'll be delighted with that. First run for, as I said, Qatar in the run, and absolutely, that's got Melbourne Cup absolutely all over it, hasn't it? He has run on extremely well. Almania has definitely improved for being gelded. The Simcoe run being needed was born out there, but the sweeping move that he made around the turn certainly caught me out a little bit. Few horses have travelled as well into the turn as him. I think it was interesting to see what DJ will be saying for the week going forward about that horse, whether it's still the attitude. Floating Artist ran well. Collide was bang there.
The Max We Can ran on for 4th, by the way, if you're having an each way bet on that one, which again completes a decent afternoon's work for the Doyler.
Yes, very much so. And I think form-wise, this is going to be a race that we want to follow going forward, guys. Just watching it back now, just watch All Right Sunshine. He's just been caught on the inside there. He had a decision, Danny Tudhope, and he's a horse that does need to wind up a bit, albeit get there late, and he's just been absolutely stopped in his tracks. I think it was probably just one coming back on him there, I think. So that was game over there. The Max We Can's gone wide with Celino. Almania went wide as well. But, I mean, this was absolute job done, wasn't it?
Brilliant win, that.
Yeah,
that was
Roger Varian,
superb
pressure off him a little bit now that he's got that winner over the line. And this is a horse that turns up on the big day and provides.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a mile 6 handicap. Well, I don't. These races won't be there next year, will they? If it's
why not?
Back to, well, I don't know.
Wouldn't you? Why would you take them away?
I'm not suggesting I would take them away. I'm expecting Ascot to revert.
Why?
I just think that probably with the programme being as open as it will be, I don't think they need to accommodate like they do. I just think this is a bit of a one-off.
Well, I suppose the question is, are these, if you retain these races, are they going to have an adverse effect on other courses? Are you going to get some, well, hang on a sec, that's clashing with our race or that race? So yes. That's possibly it. But I've got to say this. So having 7 races at Royal Ascot, I'm all in favour of.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. And
it's not less is more. It's more is more in this case, isn't it? I just think that 6 races is not. It's not enough. It's
not a slog for the drinkers at the track this year either, is it? Let's face it, you're all watching it at home. You probably do want to eat up more action, don't you? Absolutely. 8 on Saturday we've got for you. The Saturday card looks incredible. Well, gentlemen, that's us for day 2 of Royal Ascot 2020. You must, come on, you've had your winner now.
Yeah, that's enjoyable. I feel better.
You feel better.
I've put yesterday's trauma behind me, and today was better, and hopefully tomorrow will be better still. But it was brilliant racing. If you don't enjoy this, then go and follow another sport. It was terrific. There were some great performances out there.
Yeah. Highlight?
Well, I think that thing in the last probably was really, really good, wasn't it? But the trouble is, you're liable to read down the bottom of page 8 one day he's had a setback and we're not going to see him until whenever.
Yeah.
But if they can keep him fit, he's really, really good, isn't he?
He's not an anti-post horse, you mean? No, probably not.
I suppose you'd have to give it to Lord North, wouldn't you? He's won the big race of the day really handsomely and now puts himself in contention for a summer of very, very lucrative targets starting with the Eclipse.
Yes, absolutely. And then you'd be looking towards the International and, I don't know, races like that. Yeah, I can't wait to see what our handicappers make him as well. It's going to be really interesting. What will the debrief be on Japan as well? Nothing like ending on a winner, is there? Nothing like it. It's just changed the whole entirety. You're going to be attacking day 3 tomorrow. You're back in the studio Thursday, Friday?
Friday,
Saturday,
Saturday, yeah.
Brilliant for a double header. Can't wait to have you back. Thanks to Bruce Millington. Barry Orr, the hat's off. That means that the Queen had her winner. Highlight of the day for you, Barry?
Oh, it has to be Lord North, doesn't it? I think he's announced himself today as a real coming force in that kind of older horses, middle distance races, and looking forward to him, seeing him in the Eclipse potentially against Enable.
And Barry, remind us when you're back, because the punters like to latch on to you, and you've been fantastic the first 2 days.
Back with you guys on Friday.
Back with us on Friday for a sizzling Friday card. Well, I just hope you've got all the winners. Don't forget to leave your comments for Barry and, of course, Bruce as well. They can still read them. We live all the feedback here on Racing Post Live with the Betfair Exchange, #RP Live. Get that on YouTube or Facebook, however you're watching us. I've been Dave Orton. We're signing off here for Race Day Live. Looking forward to Thursday. Plenty more to come.